Presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.
Long Beach is a place where racing meets the glamour and the showbiz of Los Angeles and Hollywood. Last year was Alex Zanardi. Roll the credits for the sequel. Welcome to round 3 of the 1998 FedEx Championship Series from the streets of downtown Long Beach, California. It's the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, the 24th running of this classic Californian street circuit event. The track is dry at the moment, and that is news because we've had quite a lot of rain over the weekend so far. There was a lot of rain forecast for today, but thankfully, Jeremy, things at the moment are looking pretty good.
Yes, you know, in 24 years it has never rained at this event. I know they say it never rains in Southern California, but several times it's rained in the lead up to the race, but always on race weekend it's been clear, and today looks like some more of that.
Now let's take you back a little bit over what happened in qualifying, and remember, it was the Friday qualifying that really counted. Friday's qualifying saw problems for reigning champion Alex Zanardi, who got it wrong when the gear selection went up the creek, and he qualified in 11th. Adrian Fernandez qualified 3rd, a good effort for the winner from Japan, but Brian Herter set the pace on Friday, a great effort from the man taking his 4th pole. Patrick Carpentier was in trouble. We saw him going down the escape road on several occasions, but just to prove that Brian Herter's lap was no freak, team boss Bobby Rahal also put in a quick time to set the 2nd fastest time. Saturday qualifying was washed out by rain, and Finn JJ Leto decided to find the limits of a championship car. He did it so well, he managed to avoid hitting the wall, and it was just about perfect. But Brian Herter was able to watch and see that nobody was able to challenge the time he'd set on Friday, and Brian therefore is all ready to start this race from pole position. 4 poles he may have had now in his career, but he's still chasing that elusive first victory. So Brian Herter, can he do it this time? This is an important track to him, grew up in this part of the world. We got a chance to speak to him yesterday about his feelings for the event.
Yeah, I'm happy for the team and happy for Bobby to be on the front row, but he's probably one of the guys I wouldn't necessarily want to start next to because he's tough going into turn 1, and I'm going to have to fight him hard to be able to lead coming out of that first corner. That's hard to put into words, but this is such an important race for me, and I mean, for me, they're all important, but this is the biggest race of the season, and to have a great showing here, especially because the last couple of years this place hasn't been very good to me. So to at least qualify well, and if we can back it up with a good, strong race tomorrow, I'll be thrilled.
Particularly impressive effort from his teammate as well, Bobby Rahal, who suffered that nasty accident in Motegi in Japan last week, where the car was flipped on its side and scraped fast across the track. He's on the front row, but will there be any team orders between the two?
Well, there's team orders, and that is don't take each other out. But I'd much rather it's us on the front row together than him and somebody else or me and somebody else. But yeah, I'm pleased. You know, we need it. We got it going right from the word go. I think we could have gone quicker today had it stayed dry, but you know, that's the breaks of the game, and at least we were ready to go when it counted. And yeah, I'm just thrilled to be on the front row at Long Beach, particularly as being my last race here. It's a great start.
Going extremely well in that qualifying session. They were also fast in this morning's warm-up. It does look as though Team Rahal have got themselves an extremely good setup for this Long Beach circuit. It's a 1.5 mile track, a short track, but it does require a very technical approach from both driver and engineers. It's a great place as well to come along and watch. There's lots of opportunities for the fans to get involved themselves. There are racing cars, simulators, fun things to play on and play in, and everybody here in Long Beach having a great weekend. They really make an event of this race, and all the fans here are looking forward to what should be a great race this afternoon. Coverage from Long Beach. we've got some brightness, we've got a bit of sunshine between the clouds, and we're hoping that it is going to stay dry for the rest of the afternoon. It should be a hard-fought race, 105 laps of the 1.5 mile track. A look down there at Adrian Fernandez, the man who won just 8 days ago in round 2 of the championship. A brilliant effort from the Mexican driver, and there's a huge following from the Mexican fans and his Ducati sponsors here today. Let's just take a look back at what happened at the Motegi Oval. A brand new facility, a brilliantly managed race, and a wonderful place for a race. A great start for Adrian Fernandez as he and Jimmy Vasser fought for the lead through the first corner, with Fernandez just making it around the outside. In that race you could see that Jimmy started really quickly, and I had started to accelerate, but I was carrying more momentum, and I crossed the start line pretty much side by side with him, a little bit behind as it should be, but I had so much confidence in my car, I knew I could take him around the outside of that first corner. Well, indeed he did. Fernandez was an early leader, but he wasn't the only leader of the race. Things changed around a bit later on, and at one stage Michael Andretti came charging up through the field to take the lead from the man who was up front at that point, Jimmy Vasser. It looked great for Michael until he ran out of fuel. It was a miscalculation in the pits, and the Homestead winner would have to be disappointed this time. There were accidents too. Zanardi had already hit the wall before this moment. He damaged the suspension. There was nothing much he could do about it. But it was the accident to Bobby Rahal that had everybody's heart in their mouths. A nasty looking shunt, and it flipped the car onto its side, but thankfully the veteran driver in now his last season was totally unhurt as a result. Adrian Fernandez was left up front and in the last charge against Al Unser Jr. When it looked as though Al might have a chance of nipping the lead just in the closing stages, Adrian proved that he had everything to keep him behind. It was a brilliant performance from the Mexican, his second career win, his first with Patrick Racing. That was really good, the last restart. It was what I was expecting. I was expecting to win the race, but with pressure from behind and with a good battle. It was great to see the checkered flag and to see my team waiting for me in victory lane. Al is a real pro you can trust and race with.
Caught Fernandez on a caught Fernandez, but no, we tried our hardest, and it wasn't to be, so we ended up placing a good second, which you know, Adrian did a great job, and it was he deserves the win.
So Adrian Fernandez then, the winner of round 2 of the championship, and that's done great things for him in terms of the overall series. He now is joint leader of the championship with Greg Moore, a man who's had a couple of good results already. Michael Andretti in 3rd position after the points he scored for winning in Homestead. Gilles de Ferran, Al Unser Jr. and Alex Zanardi make up the top 6. Christian Fittipaldi is 7th ahead of Pruitt, Tracy, Franchitti, Tony Kanaan going well, the top rookie, and Jimmy Vasser in 12th position in the points so far. Well, this, of course, is our first street circuit race. We've had 2 oval track races so far, and it really should be very interesting to see who does what here. Let's just look at the Queen Mary just across the way here. A brilliant setting, and we're almost ready to go racing. View as we see Queen Mary in the bottom of your picture. We can see the Long Beach Arena in the top of the picture as well, Jeremy.
Yes, with a fantastic mural and painted by the well-known artist over here, Wyland. Actually, little Al Unser Jr. actually had a hand in that painting. I'm very proud of it.
Well, Al Unser Jr. is, of course, the king of Long Beach, as this graphic shows us. He's had 6 victories in the 14 races that he's done here. Bobby Rahal's the only other man to have competed in all of the championship car races here, but he hasn't won at all. He's had 4 second places, but he's well positioned today as he starts from that front row of the grid alongside Brian Herter. Wouldn't it be amazing if he could do it in his last season, actually get that win here at Long Beach? Let's just remind you about the track. It is tight, only just over 1.5 miles. That section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all very twisty. 6, 7, 8, second gear, first gear, some of it. Let's have a little bit more of a look at the track, courtesy of Bobby Rahal, as he talks us round and the gears.
Coming out of the last corner, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear. Down into turn 1, down to second gear corner, second to this left-hander. Second to third gear. To this left-hander, long left, then down to first gear.
There you are, a masterclass in how to get round the street circuit here at Long Beach. So Bobby Rahal starting from the front row, Michael Andretti also starting up, and we're just about to hear those famous words. Let's listen up for them. Attorney General Dan
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Gets the motors fired up, and we're ready to go racing now here. And a tremendous crowd here today, Jeremy. Really great to see everybody turned up. It hasn't been great weather, certainly yesterday, and yet everybody seems to have turned out. The grandstands in front of us look absolutely packed.
Every year here, tremendous enthusiasm for motor racing in Southern California. A knowledgeable crowd, an immensely enthusiastic crowd, great fun all around. It's billed as the world's fastest street party, and I'm not going to argue with that. It really is a lot of fun here in Long Beach.
Adrian Fernandez, there he is. He'll be starting on the second row of the grid, and he caught a quick glimpse of the car next to him. A surprise from qualifying. The car of Walter Sales will be starting on the second row of the grid, and we're hoping for great things from him today. So our coverage here on Eurosport continues with the cars just about to set off from the grid. Of course, they'll do several parade laps before the green flag. It's 2 today, and 1 pace lap behind the pace car, and that pace lap, of course, bringing the speed up a little bit before the pace car comes into the pits and then lets them loose. Now, we've already had a race here today. That was the Dayton Indy Lights race, and that saw a few little problems, didn't it, Jeremy, along the way, but quite a good race nonetheless.
Yeah, relatively clean. We always expect incidents on this sort of racetrack. There's 2 long straightaways here, and they lead into tighter corners, and they seem to be a good overtaking opportunity. Sometimes tough to do that, but a clean race. And Cristiano D'Amata for Tasman Motorsports, a 28th win. It's in just 5 years for Steve Horn's Tasman team. Remarkable record they have made in Indy Lights Series.
Not such a good day for the European contingent. Didier Andre, the Frenchman, was right up there at the beginning of the race, but dropped to 5th place, I think it was, in the end. He had an incident. And Guy Smith as well had a reasonably good run in 8th position. Still getting used to the new category Indy Lights. He's moved over from the British Formula 3 Championship. So that's some of the news of some of the support race action here at Long Beach, but we're now beginning to focus on what is, of course, the main event of the weekend. It's an event that used to be for Formula 1 cars, and it's interesting to see there's a very important guest visitor here this weekend, none other than Bernie Ecclestone, and he's been in some discussions with Andrew Craig, the chairman and chief executive of CART, and it's interesting to see that he's come along this weekend. Of course, the last Formula 1 race here at Long Beach was in 1983, the race won by none other than Eurosport commentator in the past, John Watson. So the scene all set, the crowd really beginning to build up the atmosphere now as we get ready for the start. Let's take a little look around Long Beach. It is a great city, of course, right on the Pacific Ocean, just about 25 miles south of central Los Angeles, and there's plenty of ways of enjoying the sunshine here at Long Beach. There's been a few guest visitors from the world of Hollywood. They had a celebrity race as well yesterday, so that brought along a few actors and all sorts of fun and games they had there. Let's take a look at the grid now. Brian Herter and Bobby Rahal on the front row together. The Team Rahal cars going well. Adrian Fernandez, joint championship leader, with the surprise Walter Sellers joining him on the second row of the grid. Gilles de Ferran, who's led twice in the last 2 years here. Michael Andretti alongside him on the third row of the grid. Then it's Scott Pruitt and Dario Franchitti. Franchitti having his second run here at Long Beach. He scored points here last year. Fifth row, Paul Tracy and Alonso Jr., the former teammate. Alonso Jr., the faster of the Penske's this time. The sixth row of the grid sees Alex Zanardi, who won here last year, alongside Christian Fittipaldi, who was fastest in the wet. Tony Kanaan and Greg Moore share row 7 of the grid. Kanaan is the fastest rookie.
Row 8, Helio Castroneves, who's very much impressed the Bettenhausen team, and JJ Leto, his third start in the Champ Car, his first on the street circuit. Row 9, Andre Ribeiro, he tried both of the Marlboro Team Penske cars this morning, and Michel Jourdain Jr., again a lot of Mexican support here, just across the border for the young guy from Mexico City. Row 10, Richie Hearn and Jimmy Vasser, the winner here in 1996. Row 11, Art Meyer, done a very good job, the young German, with the improving Lola chassis. And Mauricio Gugelmin, major shock there. The Pac West team really struggling this weekend. His teammate Mark Blundell on row 12, alongside Max Papis in a locally based Archero Wells MCI Reynard Toyota. Another Reynard Toyota, P.J. Jones, another home favourite here. Patrick Carpentier, French-Canadian. Players Forsyth Racing been struggling this weekend. Alex Barron and Mimo Scatarella. 2 races Scatarella had in 1995, none since then. On the back row of the grid, Hiro Matsushita.
Hiro Matsushita with only one more race to go in his career. He's not doing the next one at Nazareth, but he will be doing the one in Brazil. That will be his last race before he retires. There's a look at the race then, a 1.5 mile street course for 105 laps. Pole sitter Brian Herter, he won himself $20,000 courtesy of that pole position, and if he wins the race he'll win $150,000. That's the pole award, the bonus scheme that goes on every race, and if you win from pole you pick up an extra bunch of cash. It's a great idea, and of course Brian will be delighted to take his first win here at Long Beach. It would be quite something.
It would indeed. It's been 10 races since that bonus has been won. $15,000 a race. It carries over if it isn't won. So as you say, a bonus of $150,000 plus, of course, with the pole qualifying last week rained out, that was an extra $10,000 that got carried over. So could be a big payday here for Brian Herter.
You had the view from on board Alex Zanardi. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets on today, starting from 11th place on the grid, further down than we would have expected. Michael Andretti was a man, he's been very confident all weekend, hasn't he, Jeremy? He's really felt comfortable about the car, and he was one of the most disappointed that second qualifying was so wet.
Very happy with that Swift chassis. He's been on the pace all weekend. A little bit unlucky in qualifying. He was held up on his quickest laps. Didn't get the ultimate potential out of that car. He still thinks he can win this race.
Pace car lights are out and they're on the backstretch. They've just got the last few corners, turns 6, 7 and 8, the hairpin to get round. But watch that hairpin. It is the cause of all sorts of chaos in the past. We've seen accidents right from the hairpin as they've approached the green flag in the past. Mario Andretti got tied up there some years ago. Now let's hope that they all manage to get it clean out of here. Brian Herter's got the job of just controlling the pace, but watch in the background, do watch in the background, because you'll see a few of the guys trying to get on the throttle a bit too early, and that's when it can go wrong. Here we go, green flag, and Brian Herter makes a great start. Ahead of Bobby Rahal, Adrian Fernandez slots into 3rd, Walter Salas is in 4th, but he's got to watch out because Gilles de Ferran is trying to get round him. Oh, Salas is going round the outside. Salas into 3rd, Andretti hits Fernandez. Andretti's had contact with Adrian Fernandez. Something flies in the air, it looks as though damage could have been done, and Andretti trying to get past de Ferran. Oh, and Alonso Junior's into the tyre barrier.
And Elio Castro never knows nowhere to go behind. Art Meyer just got through there, the back of the field coming through there was a 2 Pac West cars, but that'll probably bring out a full course caution right away. We hear that now the flags are out, the yellow flags are out. Alonso Junior will not win his 7th Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach this afternoon.
Oh, what a shame for it to go wrong so early on. It looked so exciting into the first corner, and I was impressed with Walter Salas. Well, I mean, the guy's never qualified so well. You'd think he would just sort of settle in, but no, he was having a stir, and it wasn't a dangerous go. It was a fair enough trying to go around the outside manoeuvre, and it didn't look as though his manoeuvre really caused the problem, but Fernandez definitely then got hit by Andretti. There is a replay of Unser. He just ran out of road. He got squeezed out by Scott Pruitt there. Pruitt didn't know he was even there, I don't think, around the outside, and little Al had nowhere to go but into the tyre barrier. And did Helio hit him hard? No.
No.
Don't think he did he?
Just about got on the brakes, got it stopped. He should be okay. They should be able to get that car. That was very close with Art Meyer there in the Lola. But Elio Castroneves should be okay. I'm not so sure about Alonso Junior's car. I'm sure there'll be some damage to the front of that machine. But what a great effort that was from Walter Salas. A very clean move indeed. The 2 Team Rahals 1st and 2nd, but Walter Salas for Peyton Coyne Racing in 3rd place. Now they've had a 3rd place finish before on the Super Speedway at Michigan in the US 500 a couple of years ago, but this is by far and away its best performance on the street circuit.
Just to remind you, in case you sort of missed out there with Walter Salas, he's not a name that's particularly well known. Standing in for Dennis Vitolo. He did race all last year. He's a graduate of Indy Lights, and he really has impressed people here this weekend. Play here of what happened on that opening lap as they came to take the green flag. You're riding on board with Michael Andretti. He was on the 3rd row of the grid alongside Gilles de Ferran. Just ahead you've got Walter Salas and Adrian Fernandez. Now watch Gilles de Ferran on the right, but also watch the car just ahead of him. That will go to the left and try and go around Fernandez. There's Walter Salas going around the outside of Fernandez ahead of us. Michael Andretti tucks down the inside. Oh, and he tries to get a little bit more speed than really he could allow for with Fernandez ahead of him, and that's why he made contact. Fernandez was being a bit cautious through that first corner. It allowed Gualtasales to go past, and Michael Andretti then got held up by Fernandez slowing down, made the contact. Can't quite see yet whether there's been any damage done. There is Al Unser Jr. though walking back. We saw that just before the break with little Al unfortunately into the tyres, and that really will hurt badly after such a good run in Japan, coming back to Long Beach, but to end so quickly.
Yeah, what a disappointment for Al Unser Jr. You could see it on his face, couldn't you? The abject disappointment for the multiple champion here at Long Beach. He loves this place. The track just suits his style. He doesn't really know why he's fast here, but fast he is. 10th fastest on the grid. Not perhaps the most stellar performance you might suggest, but the car was good. He was happy. He was looking forward to the race. He was confident, but unfortunately not to be for Al Unser Jr.
Pace car light is out, so they will be going green flag again this time. Brian Herter is our race leader. Bobby Rahal in second place, then Gualtasales third, Adrian Fernandez fourth, and Gilles de Ferran is in fifth place. That's after the initial sorting out, and Michael Andretti sixth. Dario Franchitti in seventh, by the way, just ahead of Paul Tracy, his teammate. And when they came round, Mark Blundell was in 21st position after that dreadful qualifying session that the two PacWest cars suffered on Friday. Here we go then, out of the hairpin. This time it'll be single file around to take the green flag, and Herter's on it straight away as he blasts across the line and builds up to speed again. Brian Herter from Bobby Rahal and Gualtasales. Now I wonder if we're going to see Sales do anything as brave as he comes up against Bobby Rahal into turn one. No, he just settles there in third. Fernandez in fourth under pressure from Gilles de Ferran, with Michael Andretti, remember, right behind. Now, Gilles de Ferran has had a remarkable run in the last two races here at Long Beach. He's been a race leader on both occasions. Last year he made a mistake towards the end of the race when he had actually dropped back a little bit, beaten by Zanardi in the pits as much as anything else. Zanardi had gone on to take the victory. The year before, de Ferran was in even better position when he led just about the whole race until 5 laps before the end. The turbo fell off the exhaust pipe, and unfortunately he dropped right down to, he managed to finish, but he dropped down to 5th position. So Gilles de Ferran really loves this place, and he wants to try and find a way past Fernandez as quickly as possible. Across the line they go then, and Herter, 5 laps completed already thanks to that yellow flag running. Herter with an advantage of just over a second from Team Boss. Bobby Rahal as de Ferran takes a little look down the inside into turn one. They've made the track a little wider through that section, and it has given a few more opportunities for overtaking. They've also limited the pit lane in an attempt to make it safer as cars out of the pits. We'll have to see whether that works a little bit later on. Onto the backstretch now.
There we are on the backstretch, up to 185 miles an hour. They're in top gear, then hard on the brakes for turn 6. Third gear, most of these cars will be taking it. Some of them actually use second, but the majority use third. Third there for Michael Andretti. He's down now into turn 7, the left-hander, following Gilles de Ferran. Tough to make a pass into that hairpin. He follows de Ferran out of that corner onto, again, the long straightaway here, the curving straightaway, but absolutely flat out along shoreline drive.
Yeah, Andretti looking threatening behind Gilles de Ferran. Now, it's obviously a much better car they have here in the Swift this year on the road courses. Last year, it was a great car on the ovals. It won the season opener at Homestead. But after that, it dropped away a little bit. They suffered with a particular problem, which they didn't really want to talk about too much. But they do seem to have addressed it this year. Michael has been quick here all weekend. Quick in the practice sessions, unlucky in first qualifying not to be better than third row, but Michael Andretti very, very confident about this car. Look at this, Gilles de Ferran's on the inside of Fernandez, makes the pass into turn number 6. Classic piece of overtaking, beautifully executed by the Brazilian Gilles de Ferran, and that now moves him up into 4th place.
And there goes Andretti down the inside into the hairpin as well. Fernandez struggling in these early stages, and both those two cars, Gilles de Ferran and Michael Andretti, able to take advantage. Andretti now up into 5th position, chasing after Gilles de Ferran. He's on the move already.
Yeah, interesting to see the Mexican who was the winner in Motegi, and he certainly deserved it there. He was the pace setter all the time. He now has Dario Franchitti right behind him. Franchitti running in 7th position and looking for a way past the Mexican himself. Scott Pruitt is then next up in the silver car. Then it's Paul Tracy. So Scott Pruitt actually has got between those two.
Yeah, he has. He passed him last time around. Didn't quite see where that happened, but he's on the move as well. So one Patrick car may be struggling a little bit, but the other one is running well.
So there is Franchitti then, down in 7th position at the moment. His second visit to this Long Beach track, but a change of team, of course. He's with Barry Green's team now, along with Paul Tracy. They've had a difficult start to the season. I think we expected better things of them in the early part of the year, but they really struggled on the ovals. Last race it began to get a little bit better though, and not a bad finish in the end for Dario. He finished up in 8th position at the second round at Motegi. Not a bad performance, scoring points, which is the important thing. There, by the way, Zanardi. Alex Zanardi trying to get past Paul Tracy, but at the moment, Alex is running down in 10th place. Very unusual to see Alex that far down and not immediately trying to charge his way up to the front of the field.
Yeah, biding his time this time. He didn't really have much option. He's not been on the pace. There's somebody off in the escape road there at turn 1.
I think it's Carpentier again, Jeremy. We've seen him off so many times this weekend. I don't really know what he's been up to, but I think it is. Greg Moore, by the way, is running down in 13th position. And he said that that first qualifying day they were experimenting with some different engine management systems on the car and different engine specification, and he said really they just went the wrong way, and that explained his rather poor qualifying performance. Remember, Greg Moore is actually a joint leader of the championship at the moment, but he started down in 14th place. So there we go, the car of Paul Tracy still being chased by Alex Zanardi.
Yeah, Greg Moore actually lost a position on that lap to Tony Kanaan, the top rookie driver, now up into 12th place, and Moore down to 13th. And then Michel Jourdain Jr., who's made a couple of passes last few laps. First of all, he got past, who was that? That was car number 3, which was Andre Ribeiro, and also JJ Leto. So the young Mexican Michel Jourdain moving up a couple of places already. Nice job.
Yeah, JJ Leto running down in 15th position. He's just ahead of the remaining Penske in 16th. Meanwhile, the Pac West cars are right behind the other target car of Jimmy Vasser. Vasser's down in 18th, do you believe it? Guterman is 19th, and Mark Blundell down in 20th place. So those guys are really struggling at the moment, and with it being so hard to overtake here, it's not going to be easy for them to make up ground. Bobby Rahall's just set the fastest lap on that one as they go past, or in fact, you can see the laps, the speed as they cross the line, but in terms of the overall lap, Bobby Rahal was the fastest there. Running in second place at the moment. There is Adrian Fernandez still under pressure from Dario Franchitti. The problem is to get alongside. We saw a good pass from Gilles de Ferran, another one from Michael Andretti, and you can see now that Guelta Sales, who's in that dark blue coloured car, number 34, is under pressure from Gilles de Ferran. But so far, you have to say that the relatively young Brazilian Guelta Sales, much less experienced than Gilles de Ferran in running at the front of a Champ Car race, is doing a great job.
Certainly is. He had a rookie season last year with Gerald Davies' team, a small team there. Now he switched to one of the other minnow teams, Peyton Coyne Racing, and in actual fact he's running the same chassis that he ran in this race last year. That was bought by Peyton Coyne when they decided to ditch their Lolas halfway through the season. So it's exactly the same car he raced here last year. He obviously likes it.
Yeah, it obviously is a good machine, and it's great to see that a relatively low-funded team and a driver really without much money to his name, and really do have a chance to run with the top guys in this series. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, but he is losing ground. He's losing ground quite substantially now to the two leaders. 3.5 seconds a gap from second to third. There is Michael Andretti looking to pass Gilles de Ferran. Can't make that stick. And there's Guelta Sales just ahead of those two. He's what, 6 or 7 car lengths lead. So he certainly isn't really holding up these two, you wouldn't say. Gilles de Ferran, they're getting very sideways through turn 7.
Yeah, and Michael was too. You could hear them, but the brakes were actually... Oh, Gilles into the pits. I don't know if he had a problem there, but suddenly he must have a problem. It's far too early to make a pit stop. And we've only had 12 laps out of the 105. We're expecting this to be just a 2-stop race as normal. And Gilles de Ferran into the pits already, so what disappointment. He has a tyre change. Perhaps he picked up a puncture. Difficult to know exactly what happened. And of course, the team, slightly surprised to see him in at this point, probably weren't completely ready. Onto the speed limit. It's a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit here. It's been extended all the way down the pit lane now. It was only to the last pit, but in the driver's briefing yesterday, they all made agreement to extend the pit lane speed limit. Otherwise, it was just going to be too dangerous. Now he comes off the button and he can come onto the circuit. He has to stay over to the right here and not join on until through turn 1. And we gather it was a puncture that caused him to come in. So Gilles picking up some debris, or perhaps it was early contact. Somebody may have just caught a rear tyre of his with a front wing end plate. They are notoriously sharp, and it can soon shred a tyre. So Gilles in trouble already. Remember last year, Jeremy, we saw a lot of tyre problems, particularly for Michael Andretti, but it was a bit of an odd situation.
No, that was self-induced. Actually, their tyre pressure gauges had been wrongly calibrated, if you can believe it. So they were actually reading more pressure than was in the tyres. That accounted for 3 tyre failures for Michael Andretti. He had a quick car last year, but not able to take advantage of it. He's much happier with the second generation Swift, the 009C from the pen of David Bruns. Much happier this weekend. They're all over Walter Salas through turn 7.
Yeah, and Salas, knowing Michael's reputation. Oh, look at that, what a move. Wow, Michael really just putting the car alongside Walter and saying, just sort that out, and he couldn't. And Michael was able to go through. Great move from Michael Andretti. That's what he's known for, aggressive racing, but it was good. And he's moved up to 3rd place. Fernandez has moved up to 4th as a result of that as well, although Salas wants to come back at him.
He's trying to pass around the outside again, not able to make it stick this time on Adrian Fernandez, and has to slot back now in 5th position. And there goes Dario Franchitti down the inside as well of Walter Salas.
Wow, that was good as well. Franchitti just taking the opportunity to get past Salas. Salas beginning to slide around a lot now. They might have had a good car in qualifying trim, but it does look as though they're beginning to suffer in race trim, and he's now got Scott Pruitt lining him up for a pass into turn number 6. It looks as though Walter's going to struggle. Scott's not quite as definite as Franchitti was he? Franchitti really... Oh, and into the... I didn't see who that was. Somebody there. It's Jourdain, Michel Jourdain, in the bottom of the picture. Suddenly, I was watching the battle up front, and Michel just arrived, locked up, and straight into the tyre wall. What a shame. He was actually running well up into 13th before that, and I think he was on a bit of a charge. Unfortunately, the charge has come to an end. I wonder if they'll be able to get that car out without bringing out the full course yellow. I know they were telling us this morning that they're keen to try and avoid using the full course yellow, and they do have machinery there. No, unfortunately it looks as though they're not going to be able to move it, so full course yellow it is.
Christian Fittipaldi, incidentally, in that melee, able to get past the car number 1 of Alex Zanardi, so that's 9th and 10th for Christian Fittipaldi and Alex Zanardi.
Back to the action here at Long Beach, and it's under yellow flag at the moment, as still Brian Herter continues to lead them round. 17 laps have been completed. Bobby Rahal in 2nd place. The 2 Team Rahal cars running extremely well up front. Michael Andretti, though, now in 3rd position, courtesy of the move on Walter Salas a little bit before this yellow came out. Adrian Fernandez is 4th. Dario Franchitti is 5th. Of course, Gilles de Ferran, who you now are on board with. He came into the pits. He's been waved past the pace car, so at least he's going to be able to join the back of the queue, and it'll put him out of danger of being put a lap down, at least for a while now.
Yeah, he'll be able to make up some ground. It's quite a long racetrack here, and Gilles de Ferran, of course, out of sequence on the pit stops. That don't know whether it'll kill his chances of the race. It certainly won't have done him any good, and he'll still have to make another couple of pit stops in any case. So certainly a disappointing start to the afternoon for Gilles de Ferran and the Walker Racing crew, but at least now he's got some opportunity to make up some ground from that position.
We just saw Michel Jourdain's car being pushed away. That was the one that caused this yellow flag. On board now with Bobby in 2nd position, and the 2 cars running very, very competitively at the moment. A major switch this year for them. They've gone on to Firestone tyres. Last year they were Goodyear's runners. They suffered because of that on a few occasions. Brian had a couple of pole positions last year which were basically lost through the tyre not being consistent throughout the race, particularly at Mid-Ohio and Laguna Seca. He was very, very quick on both occasions. On both occasions the tyre was not consistent enough and he lost out. Bobby Rahal made the decision to go for the Firestone tyre over the winter. Doesn't seem at the moment to be a great difference between Firestone and Goodyear. There, by the way, is the Goodyear of Gilles de Ferran, a cut tyre, and problems there indeed.
Yeah, and there is the tyre pressure sensor developed actually by Penske Racing and Epic Technologies. That device measures the tyre pressure, and if it goes down beyond a prescribed limit, it sets off an alarm which is transmitted as part of the telemetry system into the pits. And in fact, the guys in the pits often know before the driver that he has a problem with a tyre. It was actually developed by Penske Racing as a result of a crash at Phoenix International Raceway a few years ago involving Emerson Fittipaldi. It saved a lot of money in terms of saving crash cars, and also it's a great safety value as well. Very good device indeed.
ready to go racing again. The pace car light is off. Bobby Rahal's reporting he's got a bit too much push, it's a bit too much understeer on his car, and he's now got Michael Andretti breathing down his neck. He won't like the sight of the black car filling his mirrors. But here we go. Brian Herter launches his way out of the hairpin again from first gear. They're up into sixth gear in the blink of an eye virtually, and up to 185 miles an hour before hard on the brakes and down to second gear for turn number 1. This is where overtaking is possible if you're brave. Michael Andretti's car does not seem to be suffering from the contact he made with Adrian Fernandez at the start of the race. Still seems to be running very quickly. Fernandez still there in 4th, ahead of Dario Franchitti in 5th.
And Andre Ribeiro slowed down as he came past here. We can see in front of us out of the booth the Penske team is getting ready for a pit stop, so maybe a similar problem for Andre Ribeiro, who falls out of 14th position.
So it's not a good day for Penske. They had a good day last time out in Motegi, but it's not coming together for them on this occasion. Back with the leaders, Brian Herter and Bobby Rahal, as they come round through to complete another lap. And reports indeed that Richie Hearn has got a puncture as well in the number 10 car. So just, oh, and there's Christian and one of the Team Green cars, and I can't tell yet whether that's Paul Tracy or Dario Franchitti. I think it's probably going to be Paul.
It is Paul Tracy. The two of those guys out of the race. That corner's not been very kind to Christian Fittipaldi. He had a tangle there with Greg Moore, another Canadian, a couple of years ago, and out of the race again it seems now, and Christian Fittipaldi it doesn't like him. He turned 7, he's not very kind to the Brazilian. Yellow again.
Well, here we go, full course yellow again, and this is a shame. It's going to be a little bit held up. Oh, look at that. Well, that was an impressive one. Paul Tracy getting flicked right up onto his two left-hand wheels and then into the tyre barrier. It looks more dramatic than it actually was. They're not going that fast on that section of the track. Speeds probably down to around 50 miles an hour, so really not that bad. But Andre Ribeiro into the pits, as you mentioned there. Oh, look at that! Oh, he nearly made contact with Brian Herter. The race leader coming into the pits almost got collected by Andre Ribeiro exiting the Penske pit. And this is where the leaders take their first chance to make a stop. Quite early in the race, 20 laps or so completed so far, and this basically turns it into a 3-stop race unless something dramatic happens in the latter stages. Everybody charging down the pit lane, and I think, Jeremy, it's actually probably a very good idea that they increase the length of the speed limit here. I mean, if they were all racing through this section, it could get rather tricky. Yeah, very dangerous indeed down there, so that's certainly a safety factor. They enabled them to do that, or led to them doing that. Quite a few cars elected not to stop, amongst them JJ Leto and Gualter Salas. New leader, by the looks of things, is Bobby Rahal, except for those guys who've not stopped, but a good effort from Rahal. So let's just take a look at what was happening there. This is the replay as Paul Tracy sort of got a little bit down the inside of Christian. They interlocked wheels, and really there wasn't a lot they could do from that point on. One of those incidents where it's difficult to apportion blame. We'd really have to see it from earlier on to see whether Paul was being optimistic. It actually looked fair enough there. He was almost alongside, and they just really got into the situation of touching wheels, and that ended the battle for both of them. So a great pity, but Alex Zanardi there with the onboard camera, he had a lovely view of it, and I'm sure he's rubbing his hands saying, thank you very much, guys. So that's just moved me up a few places, and that does him a lot of good. In fact, Alex has not yet been into the pits, I think. We'll have to check that one in a moment, but maybe he has, but he's moved up on the order. We'll see as they come around this time, and as they cross the line this time, we'll get an idea of exactly who's been into the pits, who hasn't. Across the line they go, and JJ Leto now being shown as the race leader. He's not been into the pits. Helio Castroneves being shown second. Arndt Meyer is now in 3rd place in the loader. Then it's Max Papis, PJ Jones, Gilles de Ferran, of course, who's not had to stop either. Then Alex Barron, and then Bobby Rahal. So the first of the stoppers, indeed, Bobby Rahal. They did a great job with his. Yeah, and out ahead of Michael Andretti and Brian Herter. Of course, Herter we saw there was held up there as that incident again. The two of them turning into the corner there. And Christian Fittipaldi certainly not giving Paul Tracy any room at all on the inside of that turn. And considering he was coming together with Greg Moore a couple of years ago, I think one has to be a little bit surprised that he didn't give him a little bit more room. Again, here we are on board with Alex Zanardi as they're going into turn 6. And you can see Tracy making a mistake there, going into turn 6. Yeah, that was what it set it up, wasn't it? And then Christian tried to shut the door on him. So yes, I guess you have to say that Christian was a little bit over-optimistic to shut the door on Paul Tracy on that occasion. So Paul Tracy's car gets a lift and towed away, and it's a great shame to lose two of those front runners. We're going to take another look at that, just might as well while the yellow's out. This was the incident, and as we've seen now, Paul Tracy was on the inside there because he'd made a mistake through the previous corner, but Christian Fittipaldi didn't give him any room at all. Look at it again from this view, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? There you can see Paul Tracy getting a huge wiggle under braking. Christian Fittipaldi takes advantage, pulls up alongside. He has a nose in front as they're going towards turn 7 there, but he's the one who's moving across, and Paul Tracy is already there. I don't know what Christian Fittipaldi thought he was going to pull off by trying that move at that point in the racetrack. Silly move, I say, by Christian Fittipaldi.
Yeah, he was never going to be able to turn in on Paul Tracy at that point. Fair enough to try and take advantage of somebody making a mistake ahead of you, which is what he was trying to do. Tracy had made the original mistake, but you just can't turn in when there is a car in the way. It's going to end your race, and that's exactly what has happened for Christian. So at the moment, JJ Leto is leading this race because he's not been in, ahead of Castro Neves, Ant Meyer, Max Papis, PJ Jones, Gilles de Ferran, Alex Barron, and then Bobby Rahal. Bobby Rahal, the first of those front runners who've made a stop to come out.
Not quite so. Gilles de Ferran, of course, he made that unscheduled stop a little bit earlier, so he's a little bit out of sequence, but he actually stopped on lap 12, and the other leaders came in on lap 21, so he has used up 9 laps more of fuel, and we'll have to see if there's a lot of cautions in this race. That might be okay for Gilles de Ferran. He's now out ahead of these other guys and getting ready for a restart.
And of course we know that he can run pretty much the same pace as the likes of Rahal and Andretti. Look at this, we're ready for the restart now, and Michael is jockeying for position in his attempts to get past Rahal. This is going to be fun, isn't it? See what happens as the green flag comes out and JJ Leto leads a Champ Car race. Good news that is. 24 laps are completed here, crossing the line. Castro Neves next up ahead of Andre Ribeiro. Ribeiro trying to go down the inside, but he's not going to make it happen. And let's look behind. What's Michael doing with Bobby? Well, not a lot really. They're just following line astern into the corner, and the rest of those leaders, original leaders who came into the pits, are basically settling down into the same positions. So Lecto leads it in the Hogan racing machine. Remember, this is the team that Dario Franchitti drove for during 1997. It's a Mercedes-Benz engine. They have Firestone tyres as well, and their fuel window, well, they've still got a little way to go before they have to come into the pits, these guys. They're just hoping for perhaps some more yellows to come out in a while.
Yeah, smart move, nothing to lose really for that team, I'd say at this stage. Leto was running down in 13th position before that caution. It's really not much to lose by staying out there and enjoying a bit of the thunder.
Rahal has spun, and all the cars are going past him. Bobby Rahal, who was early in second place, he was the fastest of the leaders to come out of the pits, and there he is. Oh, I don't believe this. The man who's never won this race at all. It looks so good for him this time. His last appearance here at Long Beach, and it's all gone wrong. I wonder if Michael hit him. I wonder. We just don't know until we see the replay.
Whatever, he's killed the engine. There's no power there. He's beckoning desperately for the marshals to come over and push him. They're not allowed to. The kart safety team is the only people that can go over the wall. That's the rules in this form of racing. Bobby Rahal knows that. He's frustrated as anything, but those guys will not go over that wall. They're the observers. They're not the marshals that are able to push those cars. He'll have to wait for the safety team to come around.
Oh, what disappointment.
He's going a lap down. There go the leaders. He's a lap down. Here is the safety truck. Too late for Bobby Rahal. He's a lap down, out of contention to win this race.
Yeah, incredible. Let's see what happened here. Michael's in there. Where's Bobby? Oh, there, oh dear. Michael bouncing around, and Bobby was just, well, there's nothing he could do. Look, he just got stuck on the inside and stalled it. That was it, really. He slowed right down, had to hit the brake again when he saw the incident in front of him. Michael had got past him there. So Michael got past Bobby Rahal. Now watch Michael making contact with somebody here. Or does Bobby actually hit him? Oh,
a bit of both. There was the two Toyota cars in front of PJ Jones on the inside. There's Alex Barron on the left, and Bobby Rahal really just caught up in a continuity. There is Andretti diving down the inside of one of the Toyotas, and he has to slam on the brakes there because the other car is right in front of him, and Rahal slams into the back of him. So just a bit crowded, I guess. There is it again. Bobby Rahal dives underneath there, and at the same time he's hitting the back of Andretti's car. Andretti is hitting the back of PJ Jones's car in front of big Concertina.
Well, oh dear, poor Bobby. I mean, there wasn't a lot he could do in that situation. He'd been passed by Michael. He was sort of accepted that fact. But then to be caught out like that, what bitter luck for him. I wonder how much Michael's car is damaged after that little flying escapade. I mean, surely it can't have survived properly, although, I mean, having seen what some of these cars can survive in past events, I wouldn't put it past them. We'll have to see what happens there. So it's all happening here. Helio Castro-Neves is now being shown as our race leader. That means JJ must have come into the pits. Gilles de Ferran is moved up to second. Brian Herta third. Andretti fourth. To our coverage from Long Beach, and it's disappointment, I'm afraid, for all you Finnish fans of JJ Leto, because he's out of the race, and there was steam coming out of the side pod as he pulled into the pit lane. There, by the way, is Bobby Rahal. He is just fuming. He cannot believe what has happened to him. The man who was running up front in the early part of the race, running in second position, and then came out of the pit stop so well placed. Let's take a look at a longer running replay now. On board with Michael Andretti, going past Rahal on the left. Andretti then squeezes down and tries to squeeze in just ahead of Jones, but perhaps a little bit of contact from behind was enough to just push him over Jones's rear wheel.
Absolutely, Ben. I totally agree with you. It's a great pass by Michael Andretti, taking advantage of that slower traffic. And Bobby Rahal saw what was happening. He tried to follow Michael around the Reynard Toyota of Alex Barron, but he just braked too deep into that hairpin, and he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, basically.
Here we go again then, green flag. Helio Castro-Neves is now the race leader, and if you don't know his name well, he's a rookie this year, driving for the Bettenhausen team, but Gilles de Ferran is trying to find a way past him. Castro-Neves is a very impressive rookie, though. He's the Indy Lights runner-up from last year, and he won the race here in Indy Lights Championship at Long Beach during 1997. He's supported by Emerson Fittipaldi, who believes in him very, very much and is giving him support. And so Helio Castro-Neves really looking for a good career in this form of racing. Right now, though, it's the first time he's ever managed to lead in a championship car race, and only his third outing in the series.
Looking pretty tidy there. He's very much impressed the Tony Bettenhausen team with his handling of this car. They had all sorts of problems last year on the road and street courses with Patrick Carpentier, who also struggled this weekend, incidentally, with the players' team. But Helio Castro-Neves, good feedback, great information for Tom Brown, the race engineer, to work with. And look at the job he's doing here this afternoon.
Oh no, we've got another traffic jam. What is going on here? Down at the hairpin, several cars involved. Oh, this is just getting silly, isn't it? Zanardi there involved. He's found reverse gears, trying to get round. I think, oh no, he's stalled it now, trying to get going.
Oh, look at the traffic jam there. He's actually been in the pits again. He's waving frantically for those guys to be pushed out again. I think Salas is holding up the front of that train. I think we're going to have a red flag here.
Well, it's just silly,
yellow.
isn't it?
They may be able to bring them through the back door into the pits if they can't get these out of the way, but what a mess here.
What a pity. I mean, we've seen problems at this hairpin in the past. It is an incredibly tight first gear hairpin, and if somebody gets it wrong on the inside, it looks as though Hiro Matsushita might have set things off in the first place there. He's on the inside. Let's go down to the pits and hear from Paul Tracy.
Tell us about your ride, because you almost went over.
Well, the cool car was running great. I mean, we were just pacing ourselves. I got slowed down a little bit coming off the turn on the back straight, and Christian made a move on the outside of me and put the squeeze on me, and I had nowhere to go. I was up against the wall and just sent the car up in the air, flying in the air, and it was just a bad position to try to make a move around the outside. That's why everybody's crashing into each other.
Is this unusual? I mean, it seems like we're just having almost a demo derby out here.
Well, it's getting awfully competitive out there, and it's early in the year, so you know, it's all I can hope for is some guys drop out or have problems so we can stay up in the points.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Very disappointed Paul Tracy then. We saw that incident earlier between himself and Christian Fittipaldi, which flicked Paul up into the air. No harm done to him, a little bit of damage to the car. Well, it's only been one of a number of incidents we've seen since then, and this one looks the most daft of all. They've all just managed to get going again. Let's see if we can see what started all this in the first place. Hiro Matsushita turned in and was hit by Gualter Sales.
Yeah, right across those Gualter Sales. I mean, Hiro is right on the outside of the racetrack there, apparently giving Sales room, and then cuts across him.
Yeah, it does seem remarkable, doesn't it? I mean, you think that he was so far out. I think Gualter Sales was fully justified in going for the inside there. And just look at the chaos it causes as soon as you get a car stuck on the apex. And of course, Gualter stalled on the outside. There was really just no room to go through from then on in, and that created the traffic jam. So it's a yellow flag again, and we really are having a very broken up start to this race. We've only completed, what, 31 laps out of the 105. So we're about 1/3 distance now, and I would expect to see Helio Castro-Neves coming into the pits. He's going to have to come into the pits pretty soon now, the man who's leading this race. Gilles de Ferran at the moment is second, Michael Andretti third, Dario Franchitti fourth, Brian Herta fifth, Adrian Fernandez is sixth. track as they try and pick up all the pieces. Really is a bit of a disaster around that hairpin. When things begin to go wrong, there's just nowhere for anybody to go. They can't find a way past. That's the trouble with the street track in a way. There's just no runoff area that they can build in some space for the cars to go past. Great view though, looking down on the cars from overhead, and the boats by the side of the track. It really is a little bit like Monaco in some ways, a similar sort of street track setting, perhaps not quite the same sort of glamorous location. Might not be far from Hollywood, but it's a slightly different situation here in Long Beach. Nonetheless, it is a great place for races. It's been so successful over the 24 years that it's been held here, and Chris Pook, the man who put all this together, has recently in fact sold out this race effectively to a different organisation, Jeremy.
Yeah, Dover Downs International Speedway over on the East Coast has taken over or made at least a tender offer to take over a public company here, the Grand Prix of Long Beach, sorry, the Long Beach Grand Prix Association, and it's going to be interesting to see what changes that has over the next few years, but certainly no effect here, and Chris Pook is still in charge of this event. He's still able to keep the sunshine here in Southern California. There's some nasty looking clouds there, aren't there, behind the Long Beach Arena?
Yeah, a few, but it's been a bit like that all day, and as we look out, we can still see a fair bit of blue sky out there. They're still talking about some track changes, maybe for next year. They're going to go around the aquarium. They've been talking about it for a little while now. They've even been playing tape recordings of racing cars to the animals in the aquarium to get them used to the fact that they might actually have racing cars going past them maybe next year or the year after. That's how seriously they take it, so they won't disturb the residents of that aquarium. The pace car leads them round to complete 33 laps now under yellow flag conditions again. And down in the pits, I'm glad to say that we've got Christian Fittipaldi. Let's hear what he has to say.
We heard from Paul Tracy a few moments ago. Here's Christian Fittipaldi. Give us the quick version of what happened from your seat.
Well, Paul braked, I think, a little bit too late on the previous turn. He went wide, and obviously he came out of the turn slower than I did. I had to go on him on the outside. In my opinion, I was like half a car ahead of him. I was giving him space, but he just sort of ran in, and then we touched, and basically that was it. Racing incident. It's bad for me. It's bad for him also.
Thank you, Christian.
Well, disappointing indeed, and you know, it did look as though Christian had not really given Paul quite enough room there, but a tricky one to call. And at the end of the day, really just both of them disappointed. It's a shame to lose two of the top drivers from this race so early on.
Yeah, just as we get ready to go back to green here, several drivers badly held up by that incident at the hairpin. Most notably Alex Zanardi, who has lost a lap to the race leaders. Also, Tony Kanaan dropped way to the back of the field. He's 17th last on the lead lap. And Greg Moore also back to 14th. So disaster for those two. Badly held up in that stoppage at the hairpin.
Well, it really has made things change around a little bit as we get ready to go green flag racing once again, and Helio Castroneves leads them across the line to start lap number 34. Gil de Ferro lying in second position from Brian Herter, Michael Andretti, then Dario Franchitti. Franchitti has survived all this so far to be running in a very competitive 5th place at the moment. There you just see a view of him. Adrian Fernandez is next up, and then Scott Pruitt is in 7th place. We've got bad news for Patrick Carpentier. He apparently has committed some sort of pit lane violation, so he's going to have to come back into the pits. No, he can't have done, can he? It can't have been him, because he hasn't been going for a long time. I was just looking through there. JJ Leto is back out, apparently. JJ has had some cars, has had some repairs done to his car. He thought it was on fire, apparently, but it just appeared to be some steam coming out of the side pod, so they've actually got him back in the car, and he's back out there once more. But obviously, he's a long, long way down from the race leaders now. Up front, Helio Castroneves still doing a great job. The young rookie driver from Brazil is continuing to impress as he leads Gil de Ferro across the line. Brian Herter, though, is the man to watch in 3rd position. And Michael Andretti, his car seems to be fine at the moment, Jeremy. If you consider just how high it went in the air in that incident when he hit PJ Jones, doesn't seem to be slowing Michael much.
Astonishing, isn't it? He's right there behind Brian Herter. There is a race leader, Helio Castroneves, Gil de Ferro behind him, and Castroneves, of course, not yet made a pit stop, so Gilles de Ferran, the first of the drivers to have made a stop, and those few cautions there will certainly aid the cause of Gilles de Ferran, because he will be able to go longer now on this fuel load, and perhaps, you know, perhaps he can make it on just one more stop. Everybody else is going to have to make one more pit stop. There's Castroneves flicking the car sideways under full power to the hairpin.
Yeah, as you say, could be very well placed, Gilles de Ferran. That would be ironic. He's in the past led in the early stages of the race, only to suffer disappointment later on. Across the line, you can see the speeds, 107.929 miles per hour for Gilles de Ferran. And that's a Honda engine, of course, Mercedes engine in the back of Castroneves' car, and third fastest Fernandez, suitably enough, with the other engine manufacturer, a Ford engine. And we have to say it's been very, very close and competitive between all three different engine manufacturers so far this year, and it looks like a tremendous competition all year long now.
Certainly does, doesn't it? There, as you say, it's great to see this parity. The first two races, we've had three different engine manufacturers filling the top three positions, and as you say, the same again this afternoon. Great stuff, fantastic. The FedEx Championship Series is so competitive.
Look at Mark Blundell. We've got Richie Hearn on board with him just behind Mark Blundell. And Mark, as a result of all this stuff that's been going on, has actually got himself into 10th place now, which, considering how far down he started, he was in 23rd on the grid, is actually a good effort, and a bit of fortune as well, of course, to stay out of the problems that have occurred at the hairpin on a number of occasions. Nonetheless, Richie Hearn also doing a good job. He's in 11th place here in the Budweiser-sponsored machine. Guelta Sales is behind him in 12th place. But it's good to see that this car, the Bud-sponsored Swift, the only other Swift in the field now, apart from the Newman-Haas cars of Michael Andretti. Oh, and problems for Ribeiro. Ribeiro has had a spin down at turn one. Somebody else involved, perhaps. Max Papis is down the escape road shaking his head, and it looks as though there was a coming together of some sort between those two.
Ribeiro already a lap down after that unscheduled stop with that flat tire just before that sort of sequence of yellow flags. And Papis was running in 14th place, doing a pretty good job again with the MCI team, locally based here in Southern California. That'll be a big disappointment for the home crowd here. The Italian lives now in Newport Beach, just down the road here, and he's loving, whoa, there he goes, sliding down the pit lane there, and onto Ribeiro and Tony Kanaan. That's interesting. Ribeiro and Kanaan. Ribeiro left the Tasman team to go across to Marlboro Team Penske over the winter, replaced by Tony Kanaan, and looks like some kind of a little coming together between those two.
On board now with Michael Andretti running in fourth position behind Brian Herter, perhaps just settling back in again. I'm amazed that this car is still holding together so well after that moment he had in the flying through the air, but it doesn't seem to have slowed him down. He's still doing some pretty quick lap times, 52.7 his last lap, although Helio Castroneves did a 52.3.
Yeah, going very well indeed. See, the early stages of the race, Brian Herter, when he was in the lead, he was basically doing 53 flats, 52.9, 53.0. Castroneves, of course, he hasn't got much fuel left in that car now, so he's getting low on fuel. The car is lighter, probably should be a little bit quicker, but he's certainly turning some very fast laps here this afternoon.
Of course, we've got a lot of lapped cars in all of this now, so it's hard to work out positions in some way, so we'll just have to keep showing you. Here, for example, you've got 8th place Maurizio Gugelmin in a multicoloured car here, and right behind him is Jimmy Vasser in 9th position. So those two are having a reasonably good run, especially if you consider they were running about 20th, 19th and 20th in the early stages. Oh dear, here we go again. Another full course yellow. What a shame. I don't quite know why this one has been caused. Do we know why this one's out? Can't surely be just because of Max's car down there. There must be another reason. There have been some oil flags out down here, so perhaps they've decided there's a bit of a slippery surface. And we do have one or two of the leaders. It is Helio Castroneves, the leader himself, into the pits. So ideal timing for this yellow flag for the Bettenhausen crew, but this of course will drop him back down the order.
Yeah, it certainly will, and he will have to make one more pit stop before the end of this race, almost certainly, as will everybody else in the field. So he will now rejoin at the tail end of the lead lap, and he's going to have a heck of a hard time making up for that delay, let's say, later in this race. So at least he's had a turn in the lead of the race. He knows what it's like to lead a race. He didn't put a wheel wrong. He did a super job, and he's going to be towards the tail of the field, but a great run for Helio Castroneves this afternoon. His day will certainly come in a FedEx Championship Series.
Gilles de Ferran is now the race leader from Brian Herter. So it's all beginning to settle down a little bit, I suppose, although another yellow flag rather breaks the flow. And it means that we've got Gilles de Ferran up front from Brian Herter in second position and Michael Andretti in third place. Certainly has been an incident-packed race so far, Jeremy. I should think all our viewers there in Europe watching this live on Sunday night. I hope you're all enjoying this racing from America. It's been exciting, but we would like to see perhaps a little bit more green flag time, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think we would. We've had, what, 5 or 6 cautions now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the 6th caution. We've only got 41 laps in the book, so not terribly impressed by that. A little bit of impatience, I think, from some of these drivers. But it, you know, as Paul Tracy said, this series is so competitive. You have to take advantage of any opportunity that presents itself if you're going to make up a place or two. And that's what this series has become. It's tremendously tight, very, very close racing, and there's going to be some excitement at the end of the day as well. So you know, it's all part and parcel of it, isn't it, Ben?
It is very much. But we've seen some upside-down performances today, haven't we? With Alex Zanardi there, for example, running a lap down from the leaders, down in 16th position, and he will be so disappointed to be that far down. It's been a bit of a tricky start to the year. Started out well in Homestead with that 3rd place, but the crash last time out in Motegi hasn't helped his championship defence, and nor has getting involved. It wasn't his fault, but he got held up by the incidents that we've seen at the hairpin, and that's dropped him right down the order. But there you go, and it could all happen again for the other guys who are up front now. I have to say that Dario Franchitti's doing a good job up there in 4th place at the moment, staying out of trouble, which is the absolute key issue here. I spoke to him earlier just before the race, and he said to me, well, that's what I'm going to try and do, just stay out of trouble today. Laps completed here at Long Beach, and Gilles de Ferran, our race leader, from Brian Herter in 2nd place, and Michael Andretti in 3rd, Franchitti 4th, Fernandez 5th, Scott Pruitt 6th, from Gugelmin 7th, Vassar 8th, Blundell 9th now, Richie Hearn 10th, Gualter Sullers 11th, and the last points scorer at the moment, under half distance still at the moment, of course, is Greg Moore. Greg Moore, the number 99 car. So the man who's joint championship leader. If you look in terms of championship positions, I guess you have to say Adrian Fernandez is doing best of all. But Gilles de Ferran up there in the lead of the race now. And, well, let's just hope we get a decent run now of green flag racing. Shouldn't be too long before they get underway again. And Alex Zanardi just beginning to put up a bit of heat in their tyres before this restart takes place. Looking on down the list, interesting to see PJ Jones running in 14th position. He was the man hit by Michael Andretti, remember, earlier on. Didn't seem to have slowed him down too much either. Now then, here we go, through the last couple of corners. Pace car comes in the back door to the pits, and Gilles de Ferran leads them around the hairpin and ready to take the green flag once again. Brian Herter, Michael Andretti, and Andretti now chasing after Brian Herter to try and snatch 2nd place away. Across the line they go, on to lap number 44. The race is on once again. Let's hope the green flag stays out a little longer this time. Down to turn 1 then, and right behind Michael is Alex Zanardi. Remember, he's a lap down though. And there are 2 Patrick Racing teammates. Scott Pruitt taking away that position from Adrian Fernandez. Certainly seems as if Adrian Fernandez has a problem getting up to speed after these cautions. There he is, pushing awfully close to the wall there. I think his car is perhaps, the setup's a little bit different, and he's not too confident in that car, particularly under braking, it appears. No, that's right. He seems to be very cautious, doesn't he? He's got Arndt Meyer right behind him, although Arndt Meyer is a lap down, so he's not really featuring, although Meyer's having a go, isn't he? Locks the fronts in his attempt to get past Fernandez. And there is Jimmy Vassar taking a place away from Mauricio Gugelmin. That is 7th place for Jimmy Vassar. Great move at the end of the back straight. Yeah, that's much more important than watching the yellow car, because Jimmy Vassar's taken another position in the top 10, up to 7th place now, former winner here, and he's charging his way back up the order, taking advantage of what's happened to everybody else and making a good move up through into the top 10, now in 7th place, and now he's got to go chasing after Adrian Fernandez. First of all, he's got to get past this bright yellow Lola of Arndt Meyer. But just a quick mention of Meyer, because a good effort here so far this weekend. The 1998 Lola has been working well, and it's been a tough program for them, of course. They're the only car out there the only Lola out there now after some years ago when Lola completely dominated the field. And it's just the fortunes of war. If you don't produce a quick car, nobody wants to buy it. And that's what's happened to Lola in the last few years. But they're desperate to try and get back into selling champ cars. And Altmaier's performance this weekend has certainly been a good boost for the manufacturer. Out to cross the line again. 46 laps completed, and there goes Jimmy Vasser, getting past Altmaier's Lola without too much problem as they come down the start-finish straight. Into turn 1, he'll complete the move there, and next up is Maurizio Gugelmin. Mark Blundell next up behind that, so Blundell still running in 9th place as we go back on board with Michael Andretti running in 3rd place behind Brian Herter.
Great lap that by Gilles de Ferran. Here is the race leader coming to turn 6, 52.275. His last lap around, I reckon that's about the quickest lap of the race so far. 10th or so quicker than Helio Castro-Neves was running just before he made that pit stop under the previous caution. There is Brian Herter in 2nd place and certainly falling back from the race leader, but able to stay ahead of Michael Andretti in 3rd place, and Alex Zanardi right behind Michael Andretti. That, however, of course, is not for position. Alex Zanardi 1 lap down. There he is diving for the inside. Andretti will know that. He will have been informed. He gets out of the way, lets him go through.
Yeah, Alex is very fired up, isn't he? But as you say, he's a lap down. He's got to find a way to get past both Brian Herter and Gilles de Ferran as well to recover himself onto the lead lap, and then he's got to catch up the back of the queue and start all over again. So Alex Zanardi's afternoon is certainly going to be very difficult indeed. But if anybody can do it, he can. He's shown us before how he can overtake on various races. Remember Cleveland last year when he dropped right to the tail. And remember Vancouver as well last year when he fought his way up to the front on a number of occasions, only to throw it away again. Had a quick look at the top 12 places at the moment. I think we're going to see a few changes to that before this afternoon's over. We're approaching the half-distance point, not quite there yet. Lap number 47 completed by Gilles de Ferran, and the lead he's opened up over Brian Herter now 1.5 seconds. Oh, and Ribeiro. Andre Ribeiro has gone straight on down at turn number 6, it looks like. We've seen a lot of problems down at that part of the track this weekend. He's got to try and find himself reverse. Ribeiro was running well outside the top 20 anyway before that, and it hasn't been a good day at all for the Penske Racing crew. They're just going to have to hope for better things when they go to Nazareth, the next round of the championship in a few weeks' time. Very close to their base, of course, at Reading, Pennsylvania. They'll be hoping for a good result there. They need it. They had a good result in Motegi. They need to build some sort of championship momentum. Michael Andretti there then, with Dario Franchitti right behind him. That green and white car that you're seeing, Dario Franchitti, the Scotsman, running very competitively here in the Team Green machine. Struggled here last year. He did get into the points just about, but they really struggled with getting it all sorted out. But at the moment he's keeping a lot of pressure on Michael Andretti. Looks as though there's a little bit of tyre rubber flapping on the left front of Michael's car there, Jeremy.
Certainly does, doesn't it, Ben? You're absolutely right there. You can see that problem. You can just see the inside corner, the inside shoulder of that tyre. There's a groove around that, and that doesn't look too good at all for Michael Andretti. He'll be keeping a close watch on that. Of course, the pits will be able to tell from telemetry. There's no problem with it losing pressure, at least not at this stage. But he want to make sure he doesn't burn off too much of that rubber before he makes the pit stop. It's just too early at this stage to come in and still make it to the finish on one more stop.
Now that may be a result of the damage, or if there was much damage done, it could well have been, of course. He's discussing the matter with his pit crew on the radio at the moment, apparently. And, well, if it changed the suspension setup, if it changed the front camber, that's the angle that the front wheel sits at relative to the road, then that would overheat the inside edge of the tyre, and that could be causing the problem there. And that surely must be quite a worry for Michael Andretti. He gets a good view of that from the cockpit, and he won't like that view at all. Franchitti, though, is the man set to take advantage of that because he's only a few metres behind Michael's car now. Try and pick up what he's saying there. It's a bit difficult at that speed. Just see if there's any more radio communication here. Well, he's obviously making contact with the pits.
Michael, just tell us that the hammer starts going away, we'll pin you.
Apparently the crew was ready to go there, ready to change the tyre if he came in that time, but Michael not deciding to come in on that occasion. They're all set though to change that left front, and surely he's going to have to come in at the end of this lap. Otherwise he risks that tyre letting go altogether, and that's just going to end the race completely. Better to...
still looking good. Your times are still looking good.
Well, that was interesting. Times are still looking good, they're saying. So they're still trying to get an idea as to whether this is a major problem and he's going to have to come in, or whether they can leave him out there.
Just seems to be a slice off the inside of that inside shoulder on that tyre. Yeah, you can see the car definitely understeering as he's going into these corners. Luckily, of course, they're only slow-speed corners, so the understeer won't really affect the tyre too much, but it will, of course, hinder his performance coming off the corners. And that's why Dario Franchitti is able to get a run on Andretti coming out of the turns, but not enough of a run to be able to make a pass by the end of these straightaways.
Of course, the damage may have just been done against either his front wing end plate or somebody else's wing end plate, in which case it may not get any worse. It's just a piece of rubber that's been caught by a piece of metal and hopefully not gone through the carcass and therefore causing a puncture. And that may just survive for a while longer. It might last up to the next scheduled pit stop. We'll just have to go to wait and see, or perhaps they'll just have to put in a pit stop. It's still really too far to go to squeeze through on one more stop. It would be tight at this point. 51 laps completed by the race leader, but there are still 54 laps remaining here. Across the line then, he still decides to stay out there. The lap time still holding up pretty well, and the damage not really slowing Michael Andretti down as much as we might have expected. Up front, de Ferran's lead has stretched to 5.3 seconds over Brian Herta. It's possible that Herta's slowing down a bit.
Well, a little bit, and also Alex Zanardi actually made a pass on Herta to take, not for position, but to get at least past Herta, so that accounts for much of that. Herta lost a couple of seconds in being held up as he was allowing Alex Zanardi to make that pass on the racetrack, even though it's not for position.
Well, there is our race leader, Gilles de Ferran, the man who's now pulled out a lead of 5.3 seconds, as you can see. A man who's had such good runs here at Long Beach in the past, but has never won this race. Remember last year he crashed out in embarrassing circumstances towards the end of the race. It sort of completed an embarrassing run of races. At Homestead he'd crashed when in the lead. At Surfers Paradise he'd had the crash involving Christian Fittipaldi. And then here he crashed when running, still well up in the overall order. But Gilles de Ferran here running very well. They are out of sequence with the other guys, and they are going to have to make a stop earlier than the other front runners who stopped a little bit later on. But de Ferran in good shape. And I have to say, interesting that after last year's race, when he made that embarrassing faux pas, apparently he said to Derek Walker, it won't happen again. And ever since then, ever since that point, he's retired only once from one particular race. That was in one of the Canadian races, and that was a mechanical problem. He had a brake problem, and every other race since then he's finished, and just about all of those have been in the points as well.
Yeah, many of them on the podium. He really is on top form, Gilles de Ferran. He's due a win at this place, that's for sure. He came so close with Jim Hall's team, only to have that turbo problem, or the leakage in the induction system there, and that robbed him of power the last 5 laps. He fell back heartbreakingly, having led virtually the whole way.
Yeah, that was such a shame, and it would be great if there's a chance for him to make up for that. The pit radio you may have just heard there in the background, they were just saying, Michael, try and be easy on that left front, try and nurture it, try and look after it. How does the driver do that, you might ask, when he's driving flat out? Well, it does depend on the driving style. He can be a little smoother on the steering. He can apply the throttle a little bit more carefully through the corners. Try not to make the tyre scrub across the road, particularly if the car is understeering. If it wants to slide on the front end, it's up to the driver to be very, very careful with it, very delicate on the throttle and steering.
Be careful in that left front.
Try and look after it. And that's what they're asking him to do at the moment. You can see de Ferran right into the fuel window there, and he's going to have to make a stop very soon. Oh, it hasn't lasted. Oh no, it's gone wrong for Michael. It didn't last. They took the gamble, and it's not paid off. And Michael Andretti in the wall. Oh, and that causes a full course yellow, yeah, which will of course help Gilles de Ferran with his pit stop.
Yeah, that should win the race for Gilles de Ferran, I think, if you can make it to the end from here, which I think it'll be close, but he may be able to do that. But fastest part of the race course, that presumably the tyre gives way. It doesn't look to be flat, it's difficult to say. But here we are, overhead view of Michael Andretti. Turns into that flat-out right-hander. There goes the tyre and slams into the wall. That's I've got to say that's a pretty silly gamble to take. I mean, that's a very fast corner, that part of the straightaway. They're doing well over 160 miles an hour through there. Here is Gilles de Ferran in the pits.
Yeah, de Ferran taking opportunity here of the yellow flag. Perfect timing. You saw how close he was on the fuel window. He had to make a stop around now. It's under yellow flag conditions. That really suits him well. And it's a clean stop, is it? Yes, it is. A good stop. De Ferran gets underway again and onto the speed limit of 60 miles per hour down the pit lane as Brian Herter also has made his stop, gets going again, but no way is he going to be able to get past de Ferran. There is a very disgruntled Michael Andretti. 2 races now, really, well, thrown away a little bit. This one, I suppose, he was always going to lose time by coming into the pits to change that tyre. But you have to say, Jeremy, it was a risky gamble and it has not paid off. Easy with hindsight, of course, but we saw the damage on that tyre and it was getting close to the point he was going to have to stop anyway. Let's have a look at some of the replays.
Yeah, here's another angle of it as he's coming through that curving straight there. Kaboom, there goes huge chunks of a rubber flying off there. No control for Andretti at that stage, 160 miles an hour plus, and slides into the wall and all the way down the wall there. What a shame. Here is Brian Herter's car, and they're spearing off into the outside wall, and a huge chunk of rubber comes off just before he hits the wall, but the damage done quite a bit before that. And,
in a way, it's probably just as well it
here it is again
there,
from the onboard camera.
Yeah, let's take a look. Oh, look at that. Look at the way it just destroys the left front suspension. But the way it worked there, he was a very shallow angle into the wall. So in some ways, although it was one of the fastest parts of the track, he was quite fortunate because it was a very shallow angle and the impact wasn't too heavy, was it?
Yeah, relatively speaking, but big disappointment for the Newman Haas crew. They'd run so well all 3 races this year, just 1 win to show so far.
The Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach has certainly seen plenty of incident. The latest has seen Michael Andretti go out of the race with a blown left front tyre. They were trying to gamble. They wanted to get through to the next pit stop before they changed that left front. They lost the gamble, and Michael Andretti out of the race as a consequence of that. He's not going to score any points here today. And as a result, Gilles de Ferran was able to pop into the pit lane, refuel, put a new set of tyres on. That should be his last stop for the afternoon, and that sees him out in front with 58 laps completed. Helio Castroneves has come back up to 2nd place with being on a slightly different pit stop strategy. Franchitti now in 3rd, ahead of Brian Herter. So that means on the pit stops, he must have had a better pit stop than Brian Herter. So good work there from Team Green. Got him out ahead of the Team Rahal driver, Scott Pruitt, Adrian Fernandez, Jimmy Vasser in 7th, Mark Blundell 8th, Greg Moore 9th, and Tony Kanaan 10th.
Yeah, and behind Tony Kanaan is PJ Jones and Mauricio Gugelmin, who made an extra stop under that caution, a flat rear tyre. And Alex Zanardi, who stayed out under this caution, did not make a pit stop, was therefore able to regain the lead lap, has just been waved past the pace car, will take up position at the back of the pack. And he will be in 13th place ahead of Alex Barron Gualter-Salas, who is shown a lap down, presumably a long pit stop. They're not quite sure what that problem was. And Art Meyer, who is 2 laps down in 16th place. But Zanardi is back on the lead lap, but he does need to make a pit stop pretty soon in any case.
You can see there have been 4 different leaders, 3 changes of the lead throughout the course of this 59 laps, but out of the race, Michael Andretti, Richie Hearn, Max Papis, Paul Tracy, Christian Fittipaldi, Michel Jourdain, Patrick Carpentier and Al Unser Jr. Little Al was one of the first out, in case you didn't catch up with that in the early part of the race. He just lost out at the start of the race, basically went off into the tyre barrier, so that was a disappointing way to end the day for Al Unser Jr. So our overhead view, still looking down on the pace car as it leads these guys around. Gilles de Ferran up front there, and of course, as we mentioned before, Jeremy, Gilles with a lot of friends and supporters in Europe because of his time spent in European racing. Raced in the British F3 Championship, won the series with Paul Stewart Racing some years ago. So a lot of friends and supporters back home or back in the UK anyway.
Yeah, English wife Angela, of course, and very much an Anglophile really is Gilles de Ferran. He lives in Florida these days, but he feels just about at home pretty much wherever we go on this circuit, and he certainly likes California, and he's liking it very much this afternoon. There he is in the lead. We've got 60 laps in the books now, so 45 to go, He's got to do, what, another 45 laps under. If it goes green all the way, it'll be interesting to see. His first pit stop was actually made on lap 12. His second pit stop on lap 56. So he went, what, 44 laps there. But of course, a lot of that was under yellow. So it's going to be touch and go, I would think, for Gilles de Ferran. We're not quite sure how much fuel he had on board before making that most recent stop, but it's certainly quite a long way to go on just 35 gallons of fuel. So they'll have to lean that mixture off, I would suggest, and try and eke out that fuel mileage to get himself to the end of this race without having to make one more pit stop. Helio Castroneves, however, in second place right now. He will assuredly have to stop again. His last pit stop, looking back through my lap chart, he was on lap 40, so he's already done 20 laps under since his last pit stop, and he will definitely have to come in again before the end of this race. But nevertheless, a good learning experience for Castroneves, and he will very much enjoy running up at the front of the field. He knows he can do it now, so when he has an opportunity, he's ready.
Michael Andretti moves down the pit lane, a rather glum expression. He waves to the crowd at packed grandstands opposite the pit lane here, and well, how can you describe the disappointment for him, for Father Mario there as well? They know they've got a good car this year. They've been competitive every time out, but the results just aren't coming, and that's so frustrating. You cannot afford to throw away results in this championship. There's just no way you're going to win the series by doing that, and there's just too many quick guys, too many quick cars out there to get away with it.
That's right, you need to score points. If he had made a pit stop there, he knew that tire, he knew there was a problem with that tire. Well, both he and the crew must have known there was a problem with that left front tire. Okay, if he'd have made a pit stop, he'd have fallen probably to the tail end of the lead lap. That at the moment is 13th position. Chances are he'd be able to make up quite a few places from there. And you know, if the chips fell his way, he could probably at least finish in the top 7 or 8, which is 5 or 6 championship points. By taking that gamble, no championship points, and I rather wonder about the wisdom of that.
May come to regret that later in the year. Here we go then, we're ready for the restart once again. They're on the backstretch. They have the last sequence of corners to go through. The pace car has put the lights out, and that means they're ready to go racing again. Keep an eye on Dario Franchitti, who is behind Helio Castroneves. He's running in 3rd position now, Dario Franchitti. Great effort this from the Scotsman, ahead of Brian Herta, but he will have to watch out for Herta behind him, because Brian has been fast all weekend, of course. Across the line then, Gilles de Ferran sets off very quickly. Castroneves in 2nd position, and it looks like JJ Leto's next on the road, but of course he's lapped several times, so he's just trying to get out of the way now from Dario Franchitti, Brian Herta and Scott Pruitt, and JJ keeping well wide. They're doing a great job to move out of the way of the leaders.
Yeah, smart move by the Finn. Very experienced driver, of course, letting all of these guys go past. He's not in contention here at all. He is shown actually in 19th position, but 5 laps down to the leader. No chance of any useful finish here, but of course there is an opportunity to learn about this car some more under race conditions, and that is valuable experience for the Finnish rookie.
Yeah, that's right. First street course race for him. There's plenty more to come later in the year, when the latter part of the season we see a host of street course and road course races. This early part of the season tends to concentrate on the oval tracks, as it will next time, in a few weeks' time, when they race at Nazareth. Then they've got the Rio Oval as well, and there's another couple of ovals at Gateway and Milwaukee. We really are into the oval part of the season, but this is the exception, if you like, the streets of Long Beach. And interesting to see just what anybody can do here. So Brian Herta just managing to fend off Scott Pruitt at the moment, but not closing up to Dario Franchitti. Franchitti seems to be able to run a reasonable pace on his own. Gilles de Ferran just did a 53.5. Helio Castroneves did a 53.6, and so did Dario Franchitti. So the leaders all running pretty close, but then Brian Herta was a 54.2, somewhat slower than the top 3 at the moment.
There's Brian Herta. He's not been able to match the pace that he did in the early stages of this race. He is running in 4th position, but no question the edge seems to have gone off that car somehow. And Brian Herta, his first win, I think he's going to have to wait a little bit longer for that well overdue first win. It'll be very disappointing for the guy. He's now got to keep his focus, just do the best job he can. He knows he's going to be a championship contender this year, so he needs to settle back. If he can't win the race, okay, well, fine, very disappointing, but I've just got to do the best job I can with his car.
Herta's crew saying that they are going to need another pit stop to make it through to the end of this race, apparently. That's interesting to hear. And still 41 laps to go. It's going to be tight all the way through to the finish in terms of fuel. They're going to perhaps need another stop. We're just going to have to see what happens in that respect. It is a tight track on fuel because of the number of slow corners. It's really the fact that you're on full throttle in second and third gears and the car's not really going very far because you're so low geared. That makes this one of the toughest tracks on fuel consumption.
Certainly does. And here we are. Yes, that's good. I'm glad we went to Alex Zanardi because he's moving up the field. He's moved up 2 or 3 places the last couple of laps. He is now in 10th position. That is Greg Moore behind him. The last lap around, he actually managed to pass 2 cars. He passed both Tony Kanaan and PJ Jones. And Alex Zanardi is he'll certainly need another pit stop and a full pit stop too. So some of the other guys might need a splash and go. Alex Zanardi will need to take on pretty much a full tank of fuel. It'll be a longer stop. He'll lose more time doing that, but he hasn't counted himself out of this race yet, that's for certain.
It's going to be interesting though, isn't it, as he comes up behind Greg Moore. These two are pretty tight rivals, that's for sure. They had an incident last year at one point in the season and it all got a little bit tricky. They seem to have got themselves sorted out now, but there isn't any particular love lost between these two, and Greg Moore will not be particularly keen to see Alex go past him, I think. At the moment there's a car between them, the car there of Alex Barron. He's a rookie doing a good job though. Dan Gurney's team he drives for, and talking to Dan Gurney yesterday, Dan is very impressed with this young man. He's only been racing cars for a couple of years, but he won the Atlantic Championship last year, tested for Gurney's team and did such a good job they decided to offer him the role alongside PJ Jones, and in spite of his lack of experience he's really been driving extremely well this year, and Gurney is very, very impressed with this young American racer joining into the team alongside PJ Jones. Zanardi's got past him safely though, and now goes chasing after Greg Moore for 8th position. Just looking at the high speeds across the line once again.
Tony Kanaan just passing a slower car of Alex Barron. There is Alex Zanardi. He is now in, where is he, 9th position behind Greg Moore. They both got past Mark Blundell the last few laps. Mark has actually fallen back to 11th, so another miserable day for the Pac West. You see a nose on the nose of Greg Moore's car there, a rubber mark. He obviously had some contact with somebody, probably one of those incidents out of the hairpin, I'm sure, earlier in this race. But he's trying to hold off Alex Zanardi's charge here.
Interesting, Zanardi's got the highest speed across the line there as well. They've really got that car flying now. It's going much better than we've seen really all weekend. And he has got the task of trying to find a way past the Mercedes-Benz powered Greg Moore car. And, the battle between Mercedes-Benz and Honda well fought here as Zanardi tries to move further up the top 10. As you mentioned, Mark Blundell down to 11th. It's really not a great way to be celebrating his 32nd birthday, which is coming up this week, a little bit later in the week. The team celebrated it yesterday. They brought out the customary birthday cake, and a bit of a surprise for him, and he got various presents from the team and sponsors, but he's not having much of a birthday present in terms of the car performance here today. Down in 11th place, Maurizio Gugelmin, his teammate, down in 13th position. It's not good for Pac West at the moment. Fernandez there, he is in 6th place. They're also saying there's no way he can make it without a pit stop, and in fact they're going to reckon they're going to have to stop within the next 11 laps to make sure of getting him through to the finish. That's the news from the pit lane, so we'll just have to see with Fernandez if that's going to be the case.
There is Adrian Fernandez turning into the hairpin corner here. He's following his teammate again, Scott Pruitt. These Patrick cars have been pretty closely matched this season so far, in pretty much all the sessions. And Scott Pruitt's had various little bits of bad luck. Certainly in the first race also, Adrian Fernandez, his pit stops weren't quite up to scratch for a variety of reasons perhaps. They were certainly perfect last weekend. And he's running very, very well again here in 6th place this afternoon in Long Beach.
Well, he's trying to conserve fuel as much as possible at the moment, and maintaining something like a 4-second lead over Ginny Vasser, who's in 7th place. So he's got a bit of comfort zone there. Apparently Derek Walker is talking to Gilles de Ferran over the radio and saying, oh, watch that fuel consumption as well. Well, we know that. We know that Gilles is going to be very tight. to make it through to the end on checker flag. And for once we've had a little bit of a section here, maybe I shouldn't speak too soon, without the yellow coming out. We have dangerous words indeed. But there's Helio Castroneves staying very much with Gilles de Ferran, isn't he?
He is doing a superb job. You wouldn't think this was his third start in a championship car. Yes, he did win this race last year, and he looks to the inside of Gilles de Ferran. Wow, he's learning from his countryman here. Gilles de Ferran, of course, a lot more experience than Helio Castroneves, but the young Brazilian, Helio Castroneves, he's close to that tyre wall there. He's pushing this car as hard as he can for Tony Bettenhausen. You know, Tony's worked so hard to make this team competitive. Alimax has been with him now for 6 or 7 years, and they've really built this team steadily. Again, Castroneves feigning to the inside. He's trying to make Gilles de Ferran make a mistake. Well, Gilles de Ferran made a mistake here last year. Helio Castroneves will remember that, even though he wasn't in the race. He was watching it down in the Tasman pit, cheering on his other countryman teammate at that time, Andre Ribeiro. But here is now Gilles de Ferran. We've got 71 laps in the books, but if he flashes past the line one more time, 53.140 the lap time for Gilles de Ferran. That time Helio Castroneves right behind him, and then a gap, well, a second and a half back to the third place car of Dario Franchitti. There he is with Brian Herta right behind him, and meanwhile Alex Zanardi is in the pits.
Right, so Zanardi, the reigning champion, has taken this chance to come in. This will be his last stop, but as Jeremy said earlier, it's going to be a full stop. They need to really put a lot of fuel on board this car. It's going to drop him back outside the top 10 once again, and then he's going to have to go for it. Probably good timing. He'd come up behind Greg Moore. They probably knew it was going to be quite a few laps to try and find a way past Greg. So a good call that in terms of timing to bring him into the pits, send him back out again, and then he can really set to with the task of working his way up the order once again. As we mentioned, it's about getting points this year. It's about being consistently in the points, and he's seen Michael Andretti already out of this race. If Zanardi can just get some points, then he will be reasonably happy with the day's work. Gilles de Ferran still fending off Helio Castroneves. Yeah. There is Zanardi back out, in fact.
Right ahead of the race leader. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be very interesting. Alex Zanardi is a very uncompromising racer, if ever there was, and he is on cold tyres. Gilles de Ferran, the race leader, is on warm tyres. He wants to get past Zanardi. Zanardi weaves to the inside there, and Helio Castroneves to the outside.
Well, this is great stuff. Zanardi wants to stay on the lead lap. This is vital for Zanardi to stay in front of Gilles de Ferran, and yet he's got a full tank of fuel on cold tyres, as Gilles de Ferran's got a much lighter car on a set of tyres that's working beautifully as he continues to lead this race. Zanardi trying to keep it under control. Great exit from the hairpin there. He really managed to open up a couple of car lengths over Gilles de Ferran, and now as the tyres begin to get up to temperature, now he should be more confident of keeping Gilles de Ferran behind him. Good effort, that.
Oh, great stuff here. We've got 4 cars nose to toe. There's Alex Zanardi very slow into that corner. I wonder what he's playing. I guess the tyres may not be quite up to temperature, but there we are, 1, 2, and then 3 and 4. Brian Herta, has he got ahead of Dario Franchitti there? Looks like the black and white car, the shell car, has got ahead of the cool car of Dario Franchitti.
It does look that way.
Must have been at turn 1. I didn't notice that, I must admit.
No, we couldn't see it really, but going through picture, difficult to see in the background is, yes, I think he is ahead. Zanardi locks a wheel into turn 6. That's where he had a crash on Friday. Indeed, you're right, Jeremy. Brian Herta has got past Dario Franchitti, so Herta has moved up into 3rd position. But remember, you've still got Castroneves up there. He's a little out of sync with the others in terms of pit stops, but he's running a very, very competitive race. Same sort of times as race leaders, and just going to prove that Emerson Fittipaldi's right in putting his backing into this young man.
Well, we've got a race here. Scott Pruitt is in 5th place, and he's back. He's at the tail end of this train of cars here. We're on board with Alex Zanardi looking back at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 cars there. Almost nose to tail. Great stuff there, Scott Pruitt. There is Adrian Fernandez in 6th. De Ferran, Castroneves there in 2nd place. Herta there in 3rd place. Behind Brian Herta is Dario Franchitti, and then the 2 Patrick teammates, Pruitt and Fernandez. Great stuff.
Really good stuff, and Gilles de Ferran now just got to be cool. He knows that the situation is not ideal because Zanardi is effectively slowing this group down at the moment. It might not be for much longer. Zanardi may begin to pull away a little bit. There are the notes on the race so far. Average under green conditions of 99 miles an hour, but we've had a lot of yellows today. 7 caution periods, 29 laps have been run under yellow flag conditions. A a quick check on those cars that are out of the race. Still a good number of them running, though, I have to say, even if one or two of them are several laps down. But it's this battle up front that we want to concentrate on. Alex Zanardi not in the lead, remember. He's still quite a long way down the order, in fact in 12th place overall. But the important thing is he has stayed ahead of the leader, and therefore he's got a chance of catching back up. And Gilles de Ferran behind him in the blue and white car, the Valvoline car, is our race leader. Zanardi now trying to find a way past Arndt Meyer. Meyer, the German racer, running in 17th position at this point in the race. And it looks as though Zanardi not able to get past just yet, although Meyer going past Matsushita, Zanardi getting past Matsushita, and now also able to get past Arndt Meyer as they come across the line. Well, it's fast and furious. Let me tell you, we can see JJ Leto's just come into the pits opposite our commentary position on the top of the grandstand here. And Leto, who's been running round after they got that car back out again, he's down in 20th position, some 7 laps down, but they are still running the car. Useful laps, as we mentioned earlier. Useful experience for him. Oh, he's nearly stalled it going out of the pit lane. Nope, he has got it going at last, and JJ rejoins the fray once more. Now then, the leader's trying to get past Hiro Matsushita. This is always a bit of a worry. The Japanese driver, as we saw earlier in the race, not always keeping as well out of the way as they would perhaps like, but he does move well out of the way there for both de Ferran and Helio Castroneves. 1 and 2 at the moment.
Mauricio Gugelmin, incidentally, just a note, he's in the 11th place here, quite a long way back from this, but his engine sounds very much off song. I think a problem there for Mauricio Gugelmin. His teammate Mark Blundell is back ahead of him now in 10th place. But again, he is quite a long way back from Tony Kanaan and Greg Moore, who are having a super battle for 8th place.
Brian Herter making his way past Hiro Matsushita. That shouldn't be any problem for him, and indeed he lets Dario go past safely as well. So that's good, clean stuff. Now look at Castroneves. Look how much he's into the fuel window. He's going to have to come into the pits very, very soon now. And the other guys, well, the question is whether they're going to be able to make it through without stopping. It's going to be very marginal. It'll all be down to turning down the boost as much as possible, turning down the mixture setting, not the boost as such. They don't change the boost setting, but they can change the mixture setting, how rich, how much fuel the engine is using as they're out there. And that's something that they're in constant contact with the pits to see whether they can adjust. And, well, that's a very important call from the pit lane. The engineers working on the telemetry readings they're getting from the car.
Let me tell you this, Alex Zanardi's last lap around was a 51.767. Gilles de Ferran, the race leader, there he is with Helio Castroneves right behind him. The race leader's turning times 53.4, so more than a second and a half now. Alex Zanardi is absolutely flying. He's at the tail end of the lead lap, but he's pulling away from these two rapidly, and he's hoping that everybody else has to make a stop. He's got a lot of work to do, but he hasn't given up yet.
Helio Castroneves still very impressive, isn't he? Just shadowing Gilles de Ferran's every move. Just 0.4 of a second between them the last time they came round. This is a great effort indeed. Okay, he's going to perhaps lose more time than the others. We know he's going to have to make a stop, whereas the others might be able to get through without doing that. But nonetheless, good effort from Helio Castroneves. And in the battle for the Rookie of the Year competition this year, it's a competition that Gilles de Ferran himself won in 1995 when he first came over to the United States and joined in the series. Oh, look at this. So as he goes past Arndt Meyer, Castroneves was having a little think about going past him, but it didn't actually come to anything. And I would imagine that this is largely because Gilles is running the engine as lean as possible now. He is trying to conserve fuel. Helio Castroneves is not so much in that position because he knows he's got to stop again anyway. So they're probably running the Mercedes engine pretty much full rich in that car that's running in second place, as they know they're going to have to stop. So from their point of view, it would be rather nice to find a way past de Ferran.
Certainly would. Good brownie points, if nothing else. Another note here. Jimmy Vasser had been slipping back. He was in 7th place. The last lap around, he's actually losing a couple of seconds. He's going pretty slowly. I think definitely a problem for Jimmy Vasser. And he was passed on that last lap by both Greg Moore and Tony Kanaan. So back to 9th that time around for Jimmy Vasser.
That's a shame because he'd really been working his way up well through the order. Bad qualifying for him. Castroneves has a go. This time he gets through, and that was a good move. Gilles thought about turning in, but Castroneves was there. De Ferran was sensible, saw the car there. He knows that he doesn't really have to worry too much about Castroneves. But I just wonder how fast Castroneves is going to be able to go. keep an eye on the lap times here. He's running full boost, no doubt. And there, look, there, Jeremy, is Jimmy Vasser. As you mentioned, looks as though he's not at full pace, is he?
Yeah, no, obviously a problem there, whether it's some kind of an engine problem or he's certainly well off the pace, Jimmy Vasser. That is Brian Herter, who will next be to go past Jimmy Vasser.
So, all change up front. Helio Castroneves is going to be shown as race leader when he comes around this time, but he's going to have to stop fairly soon now. They're not going to be able to get much further on this tank full. But there he is, leading again. 81 laps completed, 24 to go, and very much into the last quarter of this race now. De Ferran and Brian Herter and Jimmy Vasser, and there Vasser's still going, but well off the pace. That last lap, he was nearly 30 seconds off the pace. Now, I wonder why he stayed out there, unless he's got some sort of intermittent problem. But there he is, and he's still just ahead of Franchitti now.
Yeah, curious, isn't he? He seems to be up to speed there.
Oh, a little bit of smoke from the back of Castroneves' car, was it? He's due in apparently this lap. We think that he's going to be coming in this time to make his scheduled pit stop. Let's see whether it's this one or next lap around. The Bettenhausen crew getting ready down in the pit lane. Now, is he going to branch into the pits or is he staying out? No, he's staying out for one more lap by the looks of it. Just trying to establish a bit more of an advantage over De Ferran, and therefore when he comes back out, hopefully not quite so far down. There is the Bettenhausen crew preparing the tyres. Of course, remember, in this form of racing, no tyre warmers to peel off as they get ready for their man to come into the pits. Tyre warmers are banned in the kart championship, and therefore it makes it a little bit more tricky for drivers on a cold set of tyres to get straight on the pace. Let's ride with De Ferran for a moment here.
Down Seaside Way, the back straightaway, there is the race leader, Helio Castroneves, to the inside of Mimo Schiadarello, who's doing a nice job. He's 4 laps down. He will be now in 16th place. Steering clear of trouble, had very little track time this weekend. Actually, it's a very wide day for Castroneves. Schiadarello had an engine problem. Here he comes into the pits for Helio Castroneves, the race leader. 83 laps on the board, 22 to go.
So, waved into the Bettenhaus pit box. It's quite a tight pit lane here. It's got to be a bit cautious all the time that the fuel goes on board. The methanol fuel, remember, used in championship car racing. New set of tyres on board as well. It's usually the fuel that takes the longer time to go in. Good stop, that. 11 seconds. One of the better stops, definitely. Good effort, that, from the Bettenhausen team. And they must be delighted to have this young rookie in the team who's really pushing hard all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't need a full tank of fuel, of course, so really just 20 gallons or so will do the job for Helio Castroneves. He's back out in the fray, and I reckon he's around about 8th or 9th, I think. I'm not quite sure where he is on the racetrack.
Our leader, Gilles de Ferran, now is up front with some 22 laps to go.
Switch on.
And a message from Derek Walker there on the pit radio. The question is, are they going to be able to squeeze the fuel consumption enough to be able to make it through to the checkered flag without stopping again? And just when they could do with the yellow flag, of course there isn't one. We've lost a few cars, there's a bit more space out on the track now, and the yellow flags are less frequent. And so they're just going to have to push and still try and keep that lean setting on the fuel mixture. Brian Herter still running in 2nd place. Dario Franchitti in 3rd, Scott Pruitt 4th, Adrian Fernandez is still up there in 5th place. Interestingly, the joint championship leader, Greg Moore, those two now running 5th and 6th in positions. Tony Kanaan is in 7th, Mark Blundell 8th, Helio Castroneves being shown as 9th now, Mauricio Gugelmin 10th, with Zanardi in 11th and Jimmy Vasser in 12th. Zanardi right behind Gugelmin at the moment, and I wonder it won't be too long. Just being given the gap there to Brian Herter, 1.6. You could hear Derek Walker calling that over the radio. And now it's De Ferran to basically control this race if possible. There has been a report of possible smoke from the back of his car, but I have to say it looks all right to me.
It's pretty clean there. I don't know whether perhaps he just locked up a brake. Heavy braking here, 2 or 3 points on the racetrack. Certainly the end of this straightaway here, the end of Seaside Way. This is turn 6, the end of the back straightaway there. It's pretty clean to me, very smoothly through that corner. There is Herter behind him through turn 7. It's pretty clean, doesn't it? And down into the hairpin here. Sharp right, 1st gear corner, onto the power, 2nd gear, 3rd, 4th, 5th gear for Gilles de Ferran. past the start finish line, 86 laps in the books.
Watch the RPM.
Now that was interesting, wasn't it? Did you hear that? Derek Walker said keep it easy on the RPM. Basically try and keep the revs down a little bit. Of course, more revs equals more fuel consumption. And the Honda actually is the highest revving engine out there. It really screams away, you can notice, particularly on the ovals, of course, not so much here on a street track, but on the ovals, that Honda engine note is just that little bit higher than the Mercedes and the Ford. But they want to try and restrict the revs as they try and make this an economy run to the finish, and yet still driving flat out, getting the best of the car through the corners. This is a great challenge for the driver, and it's a real art as well. Something really that used to be part of Formula One racing, not so much nowadays, much more of a sprint all the way to the flag, but it is a very important part of this form of racing, particularly when the yellows fall, as they have this time. Quick run through the top 12, and I have to say the rookies are doing a good job today. Tony Kanan's running in 7th place, Helio Castroneves in 9th position. Of course, JJ Leto's had his problems today, so he's not really part of the equation. And Alex Barron's doing not a bad job. He's in 15th position. All-American racers, Reynard Toyota. Ferran giving a little eye on the mirror as he goes down the backstretch there into turn number 6, and then just on the gas. This is a strange corner just here. They hardly even get onto full throttle through the whole of this section. They just balance the power. They're back on the brakes into first. A little bit wide there, as you saw, a bit of understeer, pushing wide, and up through the gears. Almost as fast as you can do it there, up through each gear, and then just 5th and 6th take a little longer to engage, up to 185 miles an hour, then hard on the brakes and back down to 2nd. Over the bump, there's a big bump going into turn 1. The car really crashes down over that, and of course it can upset the balance quite considerably. Then through these little left and rights, just trying to get the traction, the power down as much as possible. There's a critical one that leads onto the backstretch. They've got to keep the momentum up there to keep a nice high straight line speed on this backstretch. Lose the onboard camera for just a moment, and then complete the onboard lap that we were looking at as he comes back into turn number 6 again. De Ferran really doing a fine job. You can see a lot of kickback on the steering as well. A very bumpy track, and just the nature of this place seems to give a lot of kickback through the steering.
Yeah, full lot there through coming off that hairpin corner for Gilles de Ferran, all these cars. It's actually almost tough to make it around there. It's very, very tight indeed, that hairpin turn 8. And it leads on to the long straightaway shoreline drive. Here he is down heavy brake into turn 1, 2nd gear. See the kickback through the steering there for Gilles de Ferran once again. Down now, braking again for turn 3, the right-hander. Couple of wheels over that inside curb, out to the outside wall. 3rd gear there, turn 4, and onto the back straightaway. A couple of sort of kinks, they're both flat out, and now onto Seaside Way.
That turn 3, of course, is the one he went off at last year. It was just a momentary lap in concentration. It was the corner you mentioned he used the curb, and I can imagine the concentration in that particular corner is intense. He does not want to embarrass himself with that kind of mistake again this year. He's doing so well up front at the moment, controlling the pace of the race. Brian Herder's not being able to do a great deal about it. He no doubt is also conserving fuel, and at the moment Brian is just a fraction slower on that last lap. They're really very, very even in terms of lap times over the last few laps. Franchitti in much the same situation, trying to... Oh, and Helio Castroneves. Oh, what a shame. The man we've been talking about so much this afternoon, the young Brazilian, and he just looks as though he's locked up now. I don't know whether anyone else was involved there, banging the steering wheel. What a pity.
He was actually right up on the tail of Mark Blundell, trying to get a position away. That would have been for 8th position. That is at turn 6, the end of Seaside Way, the end of the back straightaway. A mistake one has to presume for Helio Castroneves. Perhaps he got just a little bit carried away there. The kart safety team trying to push him back into the fray. If he has kept the engine going, he'll be okay. I'm not so sure whether he has or not. So you see the smoke coming off the brakes there, very hot indeed, particularly the left front brake. You can see the sliding off. Here he is, he's coming. Well. This is a replay of the incident. Coming down the back straightaway. Castroneves dives to the inside, thinks better of it, but he's too late on the brakes.
Yeah, now that's a bit of a rookie mistake, really. It was just he had a look, but it sort of lost concentration by doing it, and then just missed his braking point and got all messed up as he came into turn 6. What a shame, just a momentary lapse. There wasn't really any ever chance of getting past Mark at that particular moment. He was nowhere near alongside. He decided that it wasn't a good time, but by the time he decided, he also missed his braking point. So Helio Castroneves undoing an awful lot of the good work that he's done here this afternoon. Mark Blundell still running in 8th position, but he's some 4 seconds behind next man on the road, the other Brazilian rookie, Tony Kanaan. Gil de Ferran has a 1.4 second lead now over Brian Herter, and let's just see what it is as they cross the line on this occasion with 92 laps completed. In fact, the gap come right down. It really has come down. Look at that. You can see Brian Herter's right behind Gil de Ferran now, and whether that was the result of a little bit of traffic being around on that lap, I don't know. But it may be that if it stays green, some of these guys are just going to have to come into the pits and go for a splash and dash, and it could turn the whole of this race completely upside down.
Pretty interesting indeed.
Oh, look, Ferran.
Isn't he? Yes. Certainly slowed coming off that corner. 2 guys go past him. One of them is a lap car of Jimmy Vasser, who now looks to the inside of Brian Herter. He can't make the pass. De Ferran is definitely off the pace. He can't be out of fuel though, I don't think. He's still got power there going up to turn 8. Derek Walker, there is the team owner, conferring with one of his crew members. De Ferran still has power. Very strange indeed that.
Gearbox apparently on the radio. Yep. He's saying about the gearbox, some problem with 4th gear. And oh, I don't believe it. Gil de Ferran, what does he need to do to win this race at Long Beach? He's been so competitive here on a number of occasions, and yet it just does not seem to work for him. Unbelievable. And are they going to bother to do anything much if it is a gearbox problem? Tyres he's calling for as well. He says, why aren't you doing the tyres?
Only 10 laps from the end. Go.
Yeah, Derek Walker saying there's only 10 laps to go, no point in changing tyres, let's get you out as quick as we can. But what a heartbreak again for Gil de Ferran. Well, this is the speed limit there for 60 miles an hour. Looks like he's crawling along. It's difficult to say whether he has a problem here or not. But there is the end of the pit lane speed limit. He tries now to get back up to speed and accelerates down that short straightaway into someone. And here is Brian Herter into the pit lane.
Well, they are having to make the splash and dash, aren't they? It was more than that for Gil de Ferran, though. More problems than just fuel, but that is what a splash and dash is about. 6.1 seconds. Then onto the speed limit button all the way down. It'll feel like an eternity. Is Dario Franchitti going to have to stop? Dario is now the leader of this race. There are 11 laps to go. Is there any way that they can stretch the fuel mileage? Tony Kanaan is into the pits as well. He was in 7th place. It does seem unlikely that any of these guys are going to be able to make it through. We'll just have to see. And of course, this will all help Zanardi. He is up to 9th. No, he suddenly pops up to 7th now as these guys start coming into the pit lane. And Alex Zanardi, who's worked hard this afternoon to make up for the disappointment of getting caught out in the traffic at the hairpin earlier on. There is your race leader, though. It's not the first time he's led a race, of course. Dario Franchitti had a number of brilliant showings last year in his debut season. Notably, of course, the oval at Gateway, where he led very, very confidently. There, though, I'm afraid it is over, really, for Gil de Ferran. That gearbox problem is unmanageable out on track. Pruitt into the pits and out. A splash and dash for him. He was in 4th place, so that drops him out as well. Arndt Meyer is into the pits. We're really seeing a flurry of activity now.
Great stuff here. Mark Blundell goes through there. He's in 5th place at the moment. I wonder whether he's playing it canny. If he can get to the end, maybe he can pick up a really good result here, but I don't know, there's still 10 laps to go. That's an awful lot of fuel. I don't think you can, well, I don't think there's any way you can save that amount of fuel, to be perfectly honest.
I tell you what, though, one of the reasons they ran the 97 package was for fuel consumption, wasn't it? Because they knew exactly what they could do in terms of fuel consumption. No, Dario's in for his splash and dash, and there's no way he was going to be able to make it either. So Franchitti, a leader here in Long Beach, but it's not going to finish up that way. Let me tell you that Brian Herter is back in 6th place now as a result of his splash and dash stop, and this one is a bit longer. They're not so quick getting the fuel in that one, and that's going to lose Dario perhaps a bit more time. Almost 8 seconds there, so they lost about 2 seconds on some of the faster stops that we've seen. And we'll just, Mark is in. Mark is in. Mark Blundell, just saw him as he went past our commentary box window there, so Blundell isn't able to go in. Rather make it all the way to the end. There's Franchitti coming back out, and Fernandez is our new race leader now. Adrian Fernandez, the winner of the last race in Motegi.
Yeah, but he, of course, has also yet to stop. So too has Greg Moore, who was right behind him as they came past. He's absolutely flying as Greg Moore. 52.548 last time around to Adrian Fernandez 54.0. But here is Fernandez into the pits. Moore did not come into the pits. Moore will lead this race. Lap 97, Greg Moore is in the lead. He was certainly about 10 or 15 laps ago, he was being very good. Great stop by the Patrick team there for Adrian Fernandez.
The question here is, how's he going to come out versus Brian Herter? That's what I'm interested to see. I think Brian would have already gone past, actually.
No, he hasn't. Well, there is Brian Herter now.
Well, that's going to be a battle between Herter and Fernandez then, I reckon, in terms, if Moore comes in, the battle for the win here could be between Fernandez and Herter. We've got to wait to see whether Greg Moore's going to come in.
And who's behind him? Alex Zanardi is in 5th place. 53-1 last time around. He's flying. He's not far behind Dario Franchitti and Brian Herter.
Wow, that's quite something. Zanardi's done it again in some ways. He's really blasted his way through this race. Greg Moore comes in. So now we've really got the story, because all of the front runners have been into the pits to make their splash and dash stop. And this is going to be the run to the flag for the next 8 laps. Adrian Fernandez, we think, is ahead of Brian Herter. We've still got to see. They haven't come round to complete that lap yet. But I think that Adrian got out ahead of Brian Herter. It was a great stop. Good stop there, too, for the Forsyth Racing team. And let's have a look out the window. There goes Herter. And no, I think Herter's ahead of Fernandez. Yes, he is. So the positions, in fact, Fernandez got beaten there by quite a few guys. So it's now Brian Herter versus Franchitti, versus Dario Franchitti, and Alex Zanardi's not far behind.
There is Brian Herter, there is Dario Franchitti. So Herter is out in the lead, I believe, of, well, we said he was out of contention, didn't we? We were wrong. I was wrong anyhow. Apologise for that, Brian Herter. He was brought up in this part of the world. He started his career in karting in Southern California. He went to the Skip Barber Racing School. He won the championship here in the school series. Went on into the Barber Saab Pro Series as it was, won that. Went into Indy Lights initially with Brian Stewart, then to Tasman, won the championship there, and now here he is in the lead of this race with just 6 laps to go.
But don't forget Alex Zanardi, because he's not far behind these two. He's not quite in picture at the moment, but if you look a little bit further back, oh, there's a black flag for Greg Moore, we've just heard. Oh dear, that means he's going to have to do a drive through the pits. So there was some sort of violation in the pit lane there. That's bad news for the man who was joint championship leader coming into this race, and he'd done a good stop. That's going to make a huge difference in terms of the number of points he's going to pick up here this afternoon. Brian Herter leads this race. Dario Franchitti is in a strong 2nd place. Is he going to take any gambles here and try and take the lead in the remaining 5.5 laps? But don't forget that Alex Zanardi was 1.5 seconds faster than these two on the last lap, and there is Zanardi in the background. He is flying. 54.0 for these two. 52.8 for Zanardi, and you can see how close Zanardi is to these two now. Oh, what a race this is building up to. Fantastic stuff.
Alex Zanardi, he's renowned for his last-ditch charges. He can see the race leaders. Chip Ganassi will be on the radio. Can't imagine what Chip Ganassi is telling to him on the radio. Actually, I can, and there's some interesting expletives in there as well, I'm sure. But Alex Zanardi, he's his own man. He'll probably pretty much turn the radio off as much as he can, trying to tune out Chip Ganassi. He knows what he has to do. He's coming out of turn 4 there onto the back straight away, trying to get a draft on Dario Franchitti.
And it looks as though he's got a chance. He's down the inside. Dario trying to defend it, but I don't think he's going to be able to do much. Zanardi's the king of the late breakers, and he goes through into 2nd place. Oh, what a brilliant opportunity this is. The needle match. Herter versus Zanardi. Remember Laguna Seca from 2 years ago. Remember Vancouver from last year. This is the big psychological needle match between Brian Herter, who looks for his first race win here in California, where he grew up in motor racing, versus Alex Zanardi. Fantastic. And whether these two survive, Franchitti could still win this one, you know, because these two could easily take each other off.
Very definitely, but they had a couple of incidents on the final lap at Laguna Seca a couple of years ago. Herter's maiden victory apparently was snatched away from the final lap. He led most of the way. Zanardi pulled off an absolutely impossible move into the corkscrew turn. He left, he was either crash or win. That was a tactic, and that's what he employed, and that's what worked for Alex Zanardi. Heartbreak for Brian Herter on that occasion. Herter trying to keep the door closed. Zanardi pulls over on the outside. Oh boy, what a race this is.
Fantastic stuff. They still will have 3 laps to go as they cross the line this time. Franchitti's right with them. Zanardi tries to get a good exit from the hairpin, but it might have got too much wheel spin. Herta checking his mirrors, trying to see where the Italian is going to have a look next time, and he's determined to fend him off this time. His nemesis, if you like, Zanardi, in the mirrors, chasing after him, and certainly up to now the Italian has had the psychological advantage out of these two, but Herta wants to redress that balance here today. No love lost between them, and this is getting just about as close as it can be. Look how close Franchitti is behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Franchitti will be playing a waiting game here. I can't see Dario pulling off anything, any spectacular moves here. I think he knows full well what these two drivers in front of him think of one another. He's pretty sure he's got a race win on his hands here, but we'll see. You know, these cars have an overtaking button. They have a button on the steering wheel which puts the mixture on full rich just for a burst of extra power. They call it the overtaking button, and it's a question of when you use that overtaking button. And Herta there, a great exit off the hairpin onto Shoreline Drive. 103 laps in the books, just 2 to go.
Wow, this is great stuff, isn't it? What a climax this race has built up into. We had some dramas in the early part. Zanardi is biding his time. Now where is he going to go for it? He's going for it here. What a place to go for it. Wow, he's got past.
And Franchitti got a run on the exit, a huge jet. There is Franchitti making the move also on Brian Herta.
Well, he lost the momentum, but Zanardi did it. He just caught Brian Herta by surprise. He went for it when no one else has been overtaking this afternoon. And Zanardi's done it again. He's gone from the back to the front. An unbelievable drive from the reigning champion. Franchitti taking advantage of Brian Herta's lost momentum. That was great driving from Franchitti. He knew he had to watch these two to see what would happen. But Zanardi up front, Franchitti in second place, and Zanardi onto the final lap. The white flag waves. Zanardi just looking away. He's getting away from them.
What a brilliant effort by Zanardi. That was a clean pass. That was a clean dive to the inside. Herta, he knew that, well, he should have been aware that Zanardi was going to try something like that. It was a clean pass, absolutely clean. Great move by Alex Zanardi.
So he now pulls away from Franchitti in second place, Brian Herta in third, as the final mile is about to be run here in Long Beach, and the Californian crowd has witnessed something pretty spectacular here this afternoon. Another climb up through the field. Where did he drop to, Jeremy, on the old lap chart? It must have been about 20th position he went down to at one stage. He was caught up in that hairpin traffic jam, but he's fought his way back up. The pit crew have called the stops brilliantly, and he's onto the final stretch now, out of the hairpin. Alex Zanardi, he won here in 1997, but he wins again in 1998 in dramatic style indeed. Franchitti takes his best ever result in second place. Herta in a fine third, but he just couldn't quite take the win again. Fernandez fourth, Kanaan in fifth. Great performance from Kanaan, and a good day for British Motorsport, because Mark Blundell took 6th place in the end after starting way down the grid. So, oh no, Greg Moore beat him on the last lap. Greg Moore got him on the last lap. Moore is 6th, Blundell is 7th. Vassar, we're waiting, no, he's in 8th, and we're waiting for the others to come through.
Scott Pruitt, actually, he was running in 4th place just a couple of laps ago. He's actually, well, there he is, he's just leaving the pits now. He obviously miscalculation there by the Patrick team, but jubilation for Alex Zanardi. What a sensational drive. This time, no doubt about this at all. Look at him out of the cockpit, the belts are undone. Absolutely ecstatic is the Italian, and rightly so. In the past, a couple of his overtaking maneuvers, I would say justifiably, he could be criticised for being overbold. That was a great pass. He knows it. Look at that for Alex Zanardi. 18th place he fell to after that pit stop. He was a lap down. He's made it up and more. Fabulous drive.
Really tremendous stuff. I don't know how he did it, but he did. He recovered that lap, and of course a critical part of that was when they got him out in front of Gilles de Ferran, and he fended off Gilles for about a couple of laps. When Gilles wanted to get past, he stayed on the lead lap, and that was the opportunity that he needed to stay in front. But look at that, brilliant. We saw him win here last year, and the delight was immense for the crew, for Alex as well. Let's go down to the pits and see if we can grab a very early interview with the Italian.
It was like a prayer of thanksgiving. You can see the beads of perspiration under that visor as he awaits the chance to come out of the cockpit in another memorable drive by last year's PPG champion, now in the FedEx Championship Series. The fist is in the air. We didn't see a donut out there. I wouldn't surprise me if he'd ask him to fire this thing out and go back out there one more time. Zanardi, 5 times a winner last year, the defending champion, out of the car and savoring the moment. What a scintillating drive. The man has done it again. Alex, we saw you last year not only win here, but we saw you come from the back of the field at Cleveland. This is almost the same kind of a drive. What in the world was possessing you today to gain all those positions back?
I don't know, Gary. I mean, look at the rack over there. I had the steering wheel completely turned on one side. The front toe was completely wrong, but the car kept going.
That's amazing, because you can see how it's bent, and as he celebrates, let's take a look here, Rick Rice. You see how this bar is bent. These cars aren't designed to run when they're that way, and the crew has engulfed him. We'll try to get him back as they hoist him on their shoulders, and the festivities at the beach continue. We'll get him back over here, and we'll learn more about this amazing ride. What did the bent suspension come from? What was the incident that started all of this?
I don't know what happened with Bobby when they stopped at the hairpin. I stopped too, and Scott was on the side of me, one point in the side to go, and he ran over my front tire. Look at the push rod is always all bent.
Chip Ganassi has joined. Chip, what about this guy?
We had no radio. We were talking Italian the whole time.
Hey, make it difficult. I like it.
Well, you can see that it's going to be a while to get this team calmed down here as Zanardi continues to celebrate. We'll check in with Jan Beekes right now.
Well, Brian Herta hits the podium, and Brian, what a wild race. Did you get through that whole race without any damage on the car?
Yeah, somehow it was a wild race, I got to say. And, the car's running great, but obviously, Alex was on a little different strategy than us there at the end. He had fresh tires, and we had some old ones, and, his was the way to go. I just fought him back as long as I could, but the tires were great. We just needed a new set.
Who makes that call? Obviously, if you come in, you just get fuel, it's a faster stop, but if you get tires, you can run faster on the track. Is that you, or is that Bobby, or who makes those decisions?
Well, it's something that the team talks about with me, and it felt like if we could just splash and go, we might be able to hang on to it, but who knows if we'd taken tires, if it would have taken longer, we might have just lost in the pits. But I'm proud of the guys. It was a good, strong race. We ran fast all weekend, and we got some points. We're back on the board.
You certainly sound somewhat disappointed, but a podium is a podium. That's got to be pretty exciting, considering all the carnage.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're disappointed not to win the race, but today I feel pretty good about our performance. I really, Alex, like I said, was coming hard. We didn't have anything for him. I fought him off as long as I possibly could. I just about crashed the thing every lap there, trying to keep him back, and I'm happy we were able to hold on for third.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. Let's go back to Gary Gerald.
And Dario Franchitti, your first visit to the podium in this series, and boy, you worked so hard to get that second tier. Tell us about the past when Herta lost the lead.
Yeah, Zanardi pushed Brian wide a bit in turn 2, so I got inside him in turn 3. I think nobody really took on tyres the last stop, so we were sliding about a lot. So I just got to say thank you to my guys at Team Co Green. They did a fantastic job on the stops today. I lost my mirrors after about 30 laps. Both lenses fell out, so they were talking me around the whole time. And
there was so much contact during this race today. How many times were you involved with those kinds of close calls?
I didn't actually touch anybody. Although one time I had to stop at the hairpin and I lost the clutch because of it, but it eventually came back to me just before the pit stop, which was quite nice. So I'm very happy. I didn't think, it's been a long time coming on the podium, so just say thanks to the guys at Team Co Green. They were super.
I know they want you on the truck. You're going to take a victory lap. There's about 100,000 people that want to congratulate you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Dario Franchitti, first time on the podium, and what a drive.
Well, isn't that great to see Dario on the podium? Brilliant. Into his second season here now, but a tremendous achievement, and he really drove an intelligent race today.
Yeah, and that the fact that Alex Zanardi was off on strategy really helped him. He stopped with 33 laps to go in this race. That was when his final pit stop came. He had no option but to take on fresh tyres at that stage. That's effectively what won in the race. Fabulous job.
They're almost all on board? Okay.
The results of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach then, a dramatic win in the last gasp for Alex Zanardi from Dario Franchitti, Brian Herta third, Adrian Fernandez ahead of Tony Kanaan and Mark Blundell. In fact, we're getting a different thing on our screen that in fact Moore was 6th and Blundell was 7th, so we might have to check that. Jimmy Vasser 8th, Helio Castro-Neves 9th, Maurizio Gugelmin 10th, Scott Pruitt 11th, and then final point for Scott Pruitt, in fact, then down the list, Walter Salles, Alex Barron, Arndt Meyer, and the non-finishers. There were quite a few non-finishers, although quite a few finishers as well. At one point, I thought we were going to end up with nobody. There were so many cars off and car parks going on out there. But it did settle down, and certainly, although we had too many incidents in the first part of the race to really get into any sort of rhythm, the second half of the race was much cleaner and much more fun. There's the points, and Adrian Fernandez is now clear championship leader from Greg Moore, with Alex Zanardi having to move up into 3rd position, and 4th place for Dario Franchitti. Let's go down to Fernandez.
To do, just finished strong. The race was really crazy, as you say. A lot of crazy moves, which I mean, it always happen in this racetrack. So you have to be a little bit careful. But you know what? The pace was very strong right from the beginning, and we didn't have such a strong car as we thought, and so we did our best with what we had. But the team, the whole Patrick Racing and my crew did a great job on the pits. And at the end, I managed to pass my teammate, and Zanardi made a move. I went ahead of him, and he made a move which compromised the situation, and I lost the position to Scott again there at the end. But then we recovered when he had his problem with the fuel.
All right, well, congratulations on the point lead. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Tony Kanaan conducting a radio network. Tony, terrific job to get your best finish in only a couple of starts here in a rookie season. That smile tells us an awful lot about your day.
Well, I mean, Tasman did a pretty good job, the LCI, everybody, all the team. I think if it wasn't for them, I couldn't be here, so thanks for Steve Horn. We did a great race. Unfortunately, I stole the car in the beginning of the race in the hairpin, so we lose a lot of position. We back up, and we didn't give up, and we catch up everybody, and we finish 5th. So I'm very happy. I'm very proud of my team, so we just need to keep going.
In the first half of this race today, it was almost like a demolition derby. There was so much wheel banging going on. How hard is it for a rookie driver to stay patient to pick the right spot to make a move?
I mean, they try to scare you all the time. I mean, I'm a rookie. They touching everybody. They try to close the door of me, but like I said, it's the race. I'm rookie. I'm going to learn. I'm going to be the rookie until to the end of the year. So next year I can give some hard times to the new rookies.
Here's a rookie who's learning real fast, Bob.
Tony Kanaan, always with a great sense of humour, and it hasn't changed at all as he's made the move up to championship car racing. There's the results, just confirmation that indeed Greg Moore did grab that 6th position on the very last lap. A good racer manoeuvre there. We didn't see exactly what happened, but Mark Blundell pushed down to 7th in the end, but still, after where they started off, the 2-Pac West cars, both in the top 12, both in the points, and they'll be so relieved to be in the new car, I think, for the next race at Nazareth.
Yeah, in 3 weeks' time, and that's going to be pretty exciting as well. A very interesting 1 mile oval.
So it's been a tremendous race here in Long Beach, but there's still plenty more good racing to come this year.